Well, we welcome you one and all this afternoon to the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. We are now kicking off for our final races to then crown our overall winners come the end of this weekend. We are here in round 2 here at Çeşme in Turkey, having already concluded round 1 at the Fajira GP. We now move through to new waters. This time it's Turkish waters. We are here now ahead of our junior girls category that's going to be kicking us off here in the final race. As you can see already, the surf is now taking to the water, and we have got some fantastic competitors and fantastic classes lined up. We've had a fantastic weekend filled with some truly extraordinary results, and if we take a look at the junior section, they have certainly not disappointed, to say the least. We will be seeing the junior boys later on, just after the junior of one. Nela Poznikova really so far. After qualifying second, she achieved a sequence of 2 wins in Heats 2 and Heats 3, but finishing third in Heat 4 earlier on today, it landed her 50 points. She's level on points coming out of the heats with Ellen Badova, who managed to return to the top step once more, achieving her second victory this weekend here at Çeşme, Turkey. We are currently sat 85 kilometers away from Izmir here, of course, the Izmir region in Turkey. We are here in the Aegean Sea, and the junior girls getting set ready to take us round. Of course, in the number 1, we can already see the runners making their way out. Ellen Badova is, of course, going to be taking the start with her hand raised. Nela Poznikova is going to be one to watch, though, in second place. Those two are going to be going straight at it right from the off as they await the marshals to give the go-ahead for the first final to kick us off here to commence the beginning of all the finals before we bring an end to the Turkish weekend. It looks like they're going to be asked to go around again here in this case. Obviously still at this point the marshals not yet approved of the current positions of the lineups. Of course 2 signals will be given depending on whether we're ready to go or not. Obviously if the marshal has the green flag up in the air and then starts twisting it as they encroach towards the start line, they will need to go around again in order to reform. If he brings the flag straight back down, it means of course that we are going to be going into racing conditions. They're now going around the back straight with the marshal with them just to direct them through the right course, but they're going to be going in a line. So like I said, Ellen Badova in short 1 with Nela Poznikova in short 2. We've got Adela Pokarova in short 3 with Maja Zulovinska in short 4. We then have Melanie Janubova representing the Czech Republic in short 5, and it'll be 6 laps plus 2 long laps to take through the course of this junior girls final race. So here we go. They're now lining up, ready for the start once more. Now the marshal will give the go-ahead. Slightly disconnected there, Melanie Janubova towards the rear as she now looks to join the others. As now they cruise up and they will have to reform. Hand being raised by Ellen Badova. So they will have to get set to prepare for yet another run at the start. And the marshal just giving some feedback through to the girls out there on the water. There is Ellen Badova right now, a phenomenal talent who did extremely well back at the UAE in our first round at the Fajira GP. Of course, here in the MotoSurf Championship, officially recognised by the Union of International Motornautics. That is, of course, the UIM, and has been since 2019, and we appreciate their support, as well as our sponsors, IZELTAS as well, proud partners of the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. As now they make their way down towards this next left-hander, they will now undertake the start once more. As we said before, Ellen Badova, Nela Poznikova, Adela Pokarova, as well as Maja Zulovinska, Maja Janubova, all looking for success here in the final. Of course, Ellen Badova with her reputation as surfs up here in the final for the junior girls. It's a great start for Ellen Badova. She'll have that inside line as well for the first boy down the inside as they take this anti-clockwise motion. We've got one now going a little bit wide. It looked like it was the number 4 of Maja Zulovinska just taking a wide line. Of course, she represents the Polish nation, and making her way through towards the latter sector. They're going to take the slalom now, and it looks like the front 3 all going for the same lane, and that will mean there'll be plenty of wash, not just coming from the board belonging to Ellen Badova, but also Nela Poznikova, as well as they now storm up through towards the final corners on this course to open up the first lap of asking here in the junior girls category in the final. As she now rounds the final corner, it's Ellen Badova with quite a vast lead ahead of Nela Poznikova so far as they come through the first corner, and now sweeping through the next right, and then shortly they'll reach the first part where they can reach the long lap. Of course, some of them might decide to go early, and if you're Ellen Badova, given the fact that she's got quite a lengthy field in front of her, she might choose to go early on the long lap in a bit to try and cover it off early on as she now makes her way out of the red buoy. Closing up to it now is Nela Poznikova. She breezes past it as well. There's number 3 of Adela Pokarova, who has been exceptional through the course of this weekend, achieving a blanket of 3 P3 finishes after qualifying 3rd as well. And she's actually going to take the long lap this time around, as she now makes her way through the course so far. They're now going to come to the end of the slalom very shortly. Looking to bring an end to the next lap. It's still Ellen Badova at the moment, with Nela Poznikova in 2nd place. And then, of course, further back we have Adela Pokarova in that 3rd spot, already taking that long lap so far. Of course, she will eventually cross the line and be quite a ways behind, but we'll be hoping that by the time the front 2 take the long lap, that she'll be able to catch up. And it's all about executing in the right manner. And that's what every single competitor will be having on their mind as we watch as Ellen Badova makes her way through the first half of the course. Now, will she switch to the long lap? It looks like she will. So this essentially covers off Adela Pokarova's attempts to look for that long lap now this time. She sweeps through the black boys. Of course, they are marked with yellow and red. Remember, they do have to take the course in the manner that reflects those colours, as per the fully coloured boys that are out there on track as part of the main course. And it looks like Nela Poznikova has also taken the long lap as well. So the front 2 doing the same and taking the same route here in this opening stint, as they now head down through the slalom once more. Just keeping the balance on the board. That is what's necessary, trying to hit every apex. Ellen Badova, who's so well adept at this, has done a great job through the course of the heat phase, achieving 2 victories in the first heat and the last heat. So the perfect way to bow out of the opening session, actually walking away with the same level of points as Nela Poznikova. She now crosses the line and commences this next lap, as they now head down through towards the first half of the course. There's the number 2 of Nela Poznikova on the jet surf board. Of course, this is a category that will be following the jet surf technology here this time around. The girls are in an equal position as they now head down through towards the next right-hander. Of course, remember, 2 long laps must be taken to test the riders, as they now cruise through, and getting as low as possible is the number 3 of Adela Pokarova as they whip through the boys on the track here in this UIM MotoSurf World Championship, the junior girl division, where Ellen Badova, who sat top of the tree last time at the Fujairah GP, coming 2nd out of the juniors as well, doing a phenomenal job. She crosses the line again. Of course, looking to take this one home and hosed if she can. Nela Poznikova is going to be on hand, though, to try and do whatever she can to close that gap. Of course, this series proudly brought to you by IZELTAS, and of course recognised by the UIM and also the International Olympic Committee since 2010 as well, as we watch them make their way around the course. There is the number 3 of Adela Pokarova, taking that long lap once again. So across the line, making her way through the course. Doesn't look like she's alone, though, because it looks like our race leader, Ellen Badova, is now taking her 2nd long lap as well. So that's an instant reply as they now cross the line to return to the mainstay course. Now back through as they cross the line. It's still Ellen Badova, though, out in front as it stands. She's doing such a wonderful job maintaining that balance, and now snaking through the slalom. There is the number 2 of Nela Poznikova as they now round the final bend here this time to begin yet another lap. That's the number 3 of Adela Pokarova. The white flag is now, of course, out. Ellen Badova will, of course, come up towards the line now to get her next lap underway. And now we'll see where they're all going to fan out now, because, of course, Ellen Badova, in accordance to our timing screen, still top of the timing tower at the moment. We could see some late long laps being taken here on the final run. Obviously gambling to see whether they can retain it. We have got a long lap being undertaken there further up. As now we watch as the number 2 of Nela Poznikova just whips the taillight on the board coming through the first sector. It's going to be close, I think, between her and the riders in front, as now we keep our eyes peeled on our current leader, Ellen Badova, a winner in Heat 4, and this would have put her in good stead ahead of our first final of the day as well. And what a way to do it, coming through the final corners this time around. As she peels on through, it's going to be a special result for Ellen Badova, winner of the girls category. Fantastic results from the Czech. And an amazing result too for our second place rider. Nela Poznikova will take second place in the junior girls category. Number 5 of Melanie Janubova comes across the line as well to bring an end to her race. But a wonderful job from Ellen Badova, who wins the UIM MotoSurf World Championship junior girl category in the final. What a miraculous performance. Ellen Badova continuing her great run as seen through the heats, along with Nela Poznikova. Those two share the P1 and 2 spots, with Badova taking the top spot, Adela Pokarova in 3rd, Melanie Janubova finishing 4th, ahead of Polish talent Maja Zulawinska, who is down in 5th place. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from that extraordinary race last time, obviously kicking us off for the finals. And it was a great execution of brilliance from Ellen Badova, continuing from Heat 4 in great fashion. Of course, she'd managed to tie the points coming out to the heats on 50 apiece, with both Nela Poznikova and Ellen Badova sharing victories. It was race 1 and race 4 for Ellen Badova. It was race 2 and race 3 for Nela Poznikova, but Ellen Badova better on the day in the final. And that's going to grant her the top spot on the podium here in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. What a phenomenal performance here. Proudly brought to you by IZELTAS, as well as the fans now get involved, take pictures, and obviously watching on as the stars of the future make their way out onto the course and give us a show. Of course, no question, we'll be seeing the likes of Ellen Badova. I would have thought Nela Poznikova in the women's class in the future. That's for sure, following in the footsteps of such grand talents like Eliska Matuskova. Here is the starting position, though, first and foremost, for the boys category. So now we head into junior boys final. 6 laps with 2 long laps to be taken. And it's Matthias Barvik who'll be starting on top, with Stanislav Kohut in 2nd, Oliver Wolf in 3rd, Maximilian Hruska in 4th, Leo Lichel Kratochvil in 5th, with Stefan Simek in 6th, Jakub Narochny in 7th, with Mohamed Chigdem in 8th, and then Sani Yuris representing Turkey as well, down in 9th spot. So the boys category up next, and looking to follow in the same vein as our junior girls that went out onto the course. No question we're going to be in for quite the battle as they will make their way out onto the course. But we'll look forward to seeing them in action as they make their way out. Of course, Matthias Barvik really astonishingly performing brilliantly ahead of this final, taking victories in all 4 races, and no question as to why he's going to be sitting on top spot heading into our final race of the day, as now we watch the 2 junior girls making their way out arm in arm, and full credit to both of them as well. That is, of course, the Ellen Badova, of course, winner of the junior girls, and a big hug shared between them all as well. A proud moment for everyone here at Beachside. So well done, Ellen Badova, the first final winner of Asking this afternoon. Always lovely to see the raw emotion of our riders out on the course. Of course, the junior boys will be looking to match that. Ellen Badova doing a fabulous job, though. Keep your eyes on her, folks. A star for the future, no question. But also you've got the likes of Adela Pokarova, who's also there with her as well, just sharing in her congratulations. Nela Poznikova as well, who has also been stellar throughout the course of the weekend. Both of them sharing 2 victories apiece, and now it's 3 for Ellen Badova, of course, heading into this final round. But of course now junior boys to take over, and we alluded to the form of Matthias Barvik, who has been utterly scintillating. We're just seeing them now shut the panels on the boards, of course nursing around these 2-stroke engines that are naturally aspirated. No turbo charge technology. Here is now, you can see Ellen Badova's jet surf board there. Of course, Jet Surfer, you know, a top supplier of these jet board equipment that are being used here in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. So, and they're being cared for, obviously, by the riders and their teams as well. We have some phenomenal teams taking part or being represented, including the likes of Rocket Racing, Not forgetting jet surf as well, who are also very well represented. But after the girls, we now see the boys. And coming off the back of our last round at when we went to the Farija GP at the United Arab Emirates, it was Matthias Barvik who was the fastest man out on the course with some phenomenal performances in the heats. But it wasn't the heats that really stood out. It was the final, of course, that Matthias Barvik showed his real prowess for MS Czech talent. Of course, this time taking victories in every single race, coming through the heat phase before lining up in the final and taking the victory last time. Well, he won every single race this weekend here at Çeşme in Turkey. So we're now watching the riders now take to the water. Of course, Stanislav Kahut is going to be a tough rider to beat. He came off the back of a phenomenal heats run back at the Fujairah GP at the United Arab Emirates, taking 54 points in his own right, but the final did not go to plan after finishing 4th in that one, only managing to take, as a whole, 9 points come the end of it. And obviously, it's going to be key for him to get a good start here against a rider who is really in top momentum at the moment. I mean, if you come into this and you've won every single heat, it really does put you in good stead. But like we said, it was, of course, Stanislav Kahut who came out with a winner, with a win in every single heat, pretty much, coming off the back of our Fujairah GP. So maybe it could be roles reversed this time. We will, of course, find out. Not forgetting Oliver Wolf, who's also proven to be an incredible competitor. Leo Litchell, Kravatril as well, has also shown some really incredible pace in his own right when the time warrants it. As we look at his, we can look at some of his results as well through the course of these categories. And for instance, we want to look at the likes of Leo Litchell, Kratushvili. He finished 4th in the first 2 heats. Things haven't quite gone to plan though in the final 2, where he finished 5th in heat 3 and 7th in heat 4. So would really like to bounce back with a very special final performance. And out of the final heat, he was headed by Maximilian Hruška, who finished 2 spots ahead of him in the final heat, managing to muscle in a P5 effort. So 2 places above where Litchell Kratushvili came across. Of course, we would perhaps expect, though, some very hard battles between Matthias Barvik and Stanislav Kahut. I would not be shocked at all to see some side-by-sides. Of course, Barvik may be a winner in the last 4 heats, but if we want to talk about consistency, Stanislav Kahut has not been outside the podium at all either. 2nd in heat 1, 3rd in heat 2, 2nd in heat 3, and then 2nd in heat 4 as well. He comes into this 42 points off the back of the heats. That's 12 points behind Matthias Barvik, who maximised his weekend. 54 points going his way after qualifying fastest on Friday. But we'll be hoping to capitalise with a final in what could be extraordinary if he can go first, not just in the qualifying session, not just the heats, but in the final as well, to make it a sequence of victories, to make it 6 in a row. If we include qualifying as well, that would be extraordinary for Matthias Barvik to achieve that. So we'll wait and see whether he can. Obviously, Oliver Wolf has also been sensational as well, taking podiums in the first 2 heats, with heat 1 and heat 2 being 3rd and 2nd. And 6th place, though, in the 3rd heat did not quite go the way he would have perhaps foreseen. But, of course, as in the rules of the UIM MotoSurf World Championship, they do deduct the worst result out of the heat. So out of the 4 heats, you will drop 1 result. And, of course, Oliver Wolf finished 6th in that heat 3, which means he can drop that result because he finished 3rd in heat 4. So they'll take the 3rd, 2nd and 3rd placings that he had managed to achieve in heat 1, 2 and 4. So those will count towards the championship points come the end of the heats, and they will not count that heat 3 result. So it puts him more on trend with the likes of Matthias Barvik and Stanislav Kahut, and sees the likes of Oliver Wolf in 3rd place at the moment. But many others trying to break through. Maximilian Hruška has been really impressive as well throughout the course of the weekend. 3rd place in the heat 3 yesterday, and that was after 2 P5 visits. He returned to P5 again this morning in this morning's heat, eventually managing to marshal out that 27 points and finish a point ahead of Leo Litchell Kravatril. Now, he could learn something from that, I'm sure, and maybe apply it now in the final. So I wouldn't count out Maximilian Hruška for our next run out onto the track. So we will wait and see as to how they will perform. But of course, we will have to ultimately wait and see as we now await the junior boys to head out. Of course, Matthias Barvik will be leading the line for this one when the time comes. Obviously, a few of the riders getting into the water now to get ready for the start. It's a very busy Parc Fermé at the moment as they look to get prepared. Be sure to check out our sponsors as well, everyone, our proud partners IZELTAS. As well, a big shout out to the UIM for their ever-growing support. Obviously, the principal figures in the world of water sports and competitive water sports as a whole, and a proud partner of, obviously, of the MotoSurf Championship, recognising the championship now ever since 2019, the Union International of Moto Nautics. Now we see the jet skis belonging to the marshals just in the shallow shoreline, just getting ready for the riders to head out and just trying to keep it steady. And that's an illustration of really the wind that we have had so far this afternoon. It wasn't quite this bad early this morning, and I was chatting to a few of the riders yesterday. Mike Michaelidis, of course, who's racing in the stock category at the moment. He, of course, hailing from Cyprus. His family and I had a chance to chat on Friday evening, and they were anticipating some heavy winds to creep in through the course of the weekend, and goodness me, they were right. As you can see, the flags that are currently listed on the water side, just on the water's edge here in Parc Fermé, they are really grasping the attention of the wind at the moment and just being flicked around all over the place. And you can just see the behavior of the boards as well as they're sort of pirouetting in the water. They're just kind of just sinking up and down, a little bit of porpoising creeping in, which you will come to expect with the changing motions and the rising tides in certain areas. And the jet ski is no different than the marshals are donning as well, only given the nature of how you would ride a jet board, it does require a lot more balance and technique. Obviously the marshals are there just to make sure everything goes to plan. But the jet surfers, with such a high element of skill underneath them as riders, that is, of course, what's going to serve them well heading into race trim now very shortly in the all-important final of the UIM MotoSurf Junior Boys category. Here now as they take the stilts away and the board gets carried back across. Just waiting for the go-ahead at the moment as some of the riders try and get their kit washed. Obviously, they wear a lot of protective gear, do the riders, including shin guards, of course. I mean, the water is such an immense force as soon as you hit it, especially when we consider the speeds of some of these boards as well, when they start to pick up, just skimming along the water. And obviously very little in the ways of downforce. The only downforce that's really applied is when the friction is applied, when the wash from the board in front kind of drags the board back. So that is something that the riders do have to be conscious of, hence why we have the two alternate lanes coming through the final slalom, which obviously, allows the runners to sort of run side by side without being disturbed too much. So that is, of course, the matter of concern as we now watch them get ready. Obviously, a few having a problem with the bottoms on the water at the moment. Can get quite sticky when they've applied with water, just giving it a big pull as they look to get the sock off. I think it might actually be a... Oh, goodness me, and a splash as well. But the fun never leaves the beach, does it? Absolutely right. They finally managed to get the legging off, it seems. So there we go. They'll take or make their way back to the beach. But very soon we will be having the junior boys category heading out onto the water. Of course, we do have the confirmation of the junior girl final that, of course, went Ellen Badova's way. Obviously, as much akin to the result we just saw, obviously, on the screen not too long ago. Nela Poznikova finishing in second ahead of Adela Pokarova in third and Melanie Janubova in fourth. Maja Zulevinska representing the 10Z MotoSurf racing team and Poland, of course, coming home in fifth. But Jetsurf Pardubice, obviously, absolutely delighted with Ellen Badova's efforts in achieving that magnificent P1, and that will mean 3 victories have come away if we of course do include the heats that we saw over the course of this weekend on Saturday and also this morning. But obviously next up we'll witness the junior boys taking to the water this time, of course, still busy in the paddock at the moment. As you can see, the view from Parc Ferme, a few pictures being taken by the spectators and the cameramen alike. As we now see the junior boys finally taking to the water this time, so we'll see them get underway. Here ahead of this junior boy final. And a little reminder of the starting grid. Matthias Barvik starting on first position with Stanislav Kuhort and Oliver Wolf in third. Maximilian Hruska in fourth. Leo Lichel-Kratashvili in fifth. Stepan Simek in sixth with Jakub Nurochny seventh. Mohamed Chikdem in eighth. And then Sani Uras starting from ninth on the grid. But in this junior boys, of course, they do have 6 laps to take. Of course, ahead of this one in this final, with also 2 long laps that they also must take as well. So almost akin to what we saw in the heats from the likes of the Masters group that went out in Heat 4. So, and after speaking to Matej Kovicek in yesterday's action through the course, of course, for those of you who don't know, Matej Kovicek, of course, a star of the elite category in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. He came and joined me in the commentary box yesterday as we were conversing through a few of the races. He was alluding to the intense, work your body is put to, and your limbs are burning. That is what he said, the exact terminology. Your limbs are burning come the end of a race, and this is going to separate those that are able to compete over a longer distance against those that are more, should we say, inclined, or should we say in line with a sprint format of race. But obviously with this current system, the boys now having to go over 1 additional lap more in comparison to what they would be doing in the heats. So it's going to test them a little bit more. And of course, because you only run it once over the weekend with the 6-lap format, this is going to be very much a, should we say, a unique format for these young men to tackle, much like the girls did in the race prior. So let's see how they get on. Obviously, Matthias Barvik starting from the top. He's going to be joined by Stanislav Kuhort, as well as Oliver Wolf, who's going to be up there as well in that 3rd position. So we now await for them to take the start. There is Matthias Barvik there with his hand up and raised at the moment. Of course, we do have the 2 Turkish representatives towards the rear. 8th place for Mohamed Chikdem and 9th place for Sani Uras. They, of course, here with home support on home water. You just see the backwash of these boards as they make their way down this next straight. Of course, we'll await the marshal now to get the flag at the ready. It, of course, will be lifted as now surfs up here in the junior boy final. And it's a great start, 3 wide coming into the first corner. And it's Matthias Barvik who leads the way. He's going to be joined by Stanislav Kuhort and a better line down the inside from Maximilian Hruska as now he makes his way through. We've got, obviously, Oliver Wolf as well, right in the thick of it as well. But at the moment, no stopping Matthias Barvik, a winner throughout through the course of this weekend. He could be set to make it 5 out of, well, 5, well, it'd be 6, well, at this moment in time, it will be 5 so far. He's taken first places in, including qualifying. He's looking to make it 6, though, as now he rounds the final corner to finish off the first lap of Varskin. Coming across the line, following him, Stanislav Kuhort as well. So taking the next lap, 2nd lap underway, with plenty of spray coming off the back of the boards. Lots of water disturbance as well for the pilots to deal with as they fly through the first half of the course now, as we watch as Matthias Barvik leads, Stanislav Kuhort in 2nd. Indeed, Maximilian Hruska did get through into 3rd. So a great gamble, great move from Hruska, who started coming into this 4th on the grid. He's now up 1 place, dropping Oliver Wolf. Wolf down into 4th, with further back Leo Lichel-Kratashvili down in 5th place. Stepan Simek in 6th, with Jakub Nurochny and Mohamed Chikdem further back as well. Looks like Sani Uras will not be taking the start here, unfortunately. We're not going to be seeing him on the course. He's unfortunately bailed out of the race, which is a real shame, but we are going to be watching Matthias Barvik now take us through the first sector once again. There is the number 2 of Stanislav Kuhort. Now coming through the next portion of track, of course, partnered with the Jet Surf HK team. There's the 4th belonging to Maximilian Hruska with MS Czech Talent, as now they come through the final slalom once again. Of course, remember, they do have the 2 long laps to take, which will, of course, stir the pot a little bit in terms of the long laps. I can tell you that Matthias Barvik has already taken it and is now just crossing the line now, making his way around the first corner already. A rider down as well. So, as you can see, the hand signal just there, that is Matthias Barvik just warning every other competitor on the same portion of circuit that there is a rider down in the water. All part of safety here in the MotoSurf UIM MotoSurf World Championship. We've got another long lap being taken elsewhere as well. It's Stanislav Kuhort, who's still yet to take his first long lap. He leads now here at this point with Maximilian Hruška further back, Leo Lichel, Kratashvili as well. This is going to be such a key moment because now as we watch the riders come together, we could be watching them come side by side. There's number 2, just a little bit harum-scarum coming out of that section was Stanislav Kuhort. But it's still, at the moment, the number 1 of Matis Barvik, who leads the way now coming through the slalom. Of course, net leader, I mean. You can see it marked in red on the left-hand side of the timing screen as he now comes across the line. And Leo Lichel Kravachil now moves into second, so Maximilian Hruška taking the long lap, and Matis Barvik moves ahead of him as a result of already completing his first long lap as well. And now taking the long lap is Stanislav Kuhort. So this is where we'll see 1 and 2 from the starting grid come out together, but just how much time has Stanislav Kuhort gained or lost through the course of this long lap? And the laps prior was a little untidy there, coming through out of the black boy there. Is going to be side by side, you'd fathom, coming through the latter point on the lap. Leo Lichel Kravachil, I'm sure, will be out there as well, looking to try and muster up a big charge. There's number 3 of Oliver Wolf. Now taking the black boy section, looking to register yet another long lap. Of course, remember, 2 they've got to register here through the session. There is Matis Barvik, started on pole for this race. We'll see where he ended up after the long laps have taken. Obviously, Stanislav Kuhort taking his first one not too long ago. And Barvik will cross the line, as will Stanislav Kuhort. And it does look like Kuhort's behind him now. So there we go. He came across the line just after Matis Barvik did. So Barvik managing to hustle out a brilliant lap again. And another rider's down. And it looks like Stanislav Kuhort had to cut the track there just to avoid the contact. And it's left him just in behind Matis Barvik, so he might have to give up the position. As a result, an arm up for Matis Barvik's second long lap incoming. That'll be his last one. So now Stanislav Kuhort will be heading out and continuing on the course as they look to continue now on this next lap. And of course, next time around, you'd fathom that Stanislav Kuhort has surely got to go for the long lap. It's been a good race as well from Leo Lichel Kravachil, who's really been managing the race so far. There's the number 2 of Stanislav Kuhort now coming across the line. I wonder if he's going to be punished for cutting the track earlier on, or whether they will allow him based on the fact that he was trying to avoid, I think, the rider that was stricken in the water. We will, of course, if we do get news of that, folks, we will bring it to you. Regardless of how it looks right now, Stanislav Kuhort is going to come around the final corner and take the start-finish line with the white flag being raised. So the final lap now in full swing, and he's completed both his long laps. So all he has to do is just keep it measured and controlled in a bid to try and take home this victory. There's Kuhort now coming through the next S-bend. Of course, very shortly then making his way out of the slalom. He will be looking to put himself in position for potential strike against Matis Barvik, who is now making his way through the top of the course, as now we witness what looks to be Stanislav Kuhort now coming across the line. Not quite sure whether he knows what's going on at the moment. We'll, of course, wait for Matis Barvik to cross the line, folks, and make his way up towards the line. Not sure whether that was a celebration or if perhaps there is some dismay, but celebrating as he crosses the line is Matis Barvik. But obviously there was an interesting moment earlier on where, of course, we did see a cut of the course there from Stanislav Kuhort. Whether that was allowed or not, we will, of course, find out. But it looks like the victor here is going to be Matis Barvik. He's celebrating, as is the number 4 of Maximilian Hruška, who's had a great day today. We'll get you the full results as we bring them, folks. Obviously, they will be provisional. But as it stands, Stanislav Kuhort is the winner in accordance to our timing screen. But it could be Matis Barvik. There, just see now Oliver Wolf having a conversation at the moment with Matis Barvik. But Oliver Wolf seemingly very happy as well. We'll take a look at the results. It's Stanislav Kuhort in front, and our race winner from Junior Boy, the first final, with Matis Barvik in second, Oliver Wolf in third, with Maximilian Harushka in fourth, Leo Lichel-Kravatril in fifth place, Stepan Simek in sixth, with Jakub Nurochny in seventh, Mohamed Chikdem in eighth place, and of course Sani Uris did not take the start. So there we have it. We'll take a look at some of the highlights as well from some of the moments from that race. It certainly was quite the battle. Stanislav Kuhort, of course, bringing his absolute A-game, doing his best to muster in that lead lap. And of course, he was pressurising Matthias Barvik. Of course, didn't quite see what had happened through the course of that race, what led to the overtake. I would imagine generally it was settled through the long lap phase, but there we can see him cross the line. I don't think he can quite believe it either. So it looks like Stanislav Kuhort is our race winner. Come the end of this. We'll take a look as well as Oliver Wolf made his way around the final corner to take the start-finish line, and he celebrated a magnificent third place as well. So there we have it. There's our pole sitter, Matis Barvik. He must be feeling slightly frustrated that he wasn't able to take it from P1 at the start to the flag later in the day. Of course, that means now we've completed the juniors in the finals. We do, of course, have Masters competition coming up next. Of course, the UIM MotoSurf World Championship brought to you by IZELTAS. Once again, here to bring you all the action here this weekend from Çeşme here in Turkey. With the boards now making their way back on to the beach side, we're now going to take you through the runners, the starting positions for the Masters final. It's Kim Down starting from pole position with Petr Požník in second. We have David Požník in third, Kamil Schneider in fourth, Yuri Stovacek in fifth, with Efe Gasoy in sixth, Petr Faltashek in seventh, Arkadiusz Janora in eighth, Yuri Blahar in ninth, with Jano Vankerspilk in eighth place, in the A place I should say, Radek Luchka in the B place, and Murat Yorganchila representing Turkey in the C spot. Of course, remember, 10 laps and 2 long laps to be taken here in the Masters contingent. That's, of course, going to take us through, like I said, 10 laps, 2 long laps. And Kim Down, someone who is so adept at this level, obviously a multi-champion in his own right across many disciplines, including the Masters, where, of course, he was crowned a champion before. He would love to do it again, but halfway through the season, too early to call a champion just yet. But based on what we saw at Fujairah, you would definitely place Kim Down at the top of the list in terms of potential top results. He came away with 3 wins back at Fujairah after nailing a pole position in qualifying. The first heat didn't go to plan, but of course that was cancelled out with the final 3 heats counting, and they were all victorious, meaning he came away with a maximum points of 54 off the back of those heats. And obviously the Masters Class World Champion from last year, a reigning Masters Class World Champion, looking to go back-to-back towards the end of this season, and coming off the back of that first round, does sit at the top of the championship ahead of Arkadiusz Janora, who is going to be, I'd imagine, giving him a few things to think about through the course of this race. There's going to be plenty of riders out on circuit to keep an eye on, folks. You do not want to miss a thing. Kim Down, who has got quite a major legacy in this series, is going to be on point, I'm sure, in a bid to take this Masters stint. But Kim Down is the only one we need to watch as well, mind. We do have plenty of other names that could cause a stir. We have seen some great performances from Efe Gasoy in the past, and this, of course, is his home water. Here in this case, of course, the Turkish international, part of the Turkish nation, which you can see as we pan across the skies here. And plenty of people across this nation coming here to tune in and watch the UIM MotoSurf World Championship and enjoying the scenery as well. Truly is a picturesque place to be here at Çeşme, here in Turkey, and we're enjoying it ourselves as well on the beachside and watching as the riders take to the water for this fantastic 2025 season campaign brought to you by IZELTAS. And as you can see, a very busy beach out there as they all await the riders to head out. As we can see the view from Parc Fermé, plenty of riders in there waiting to head out, just putting in the final preparations in place. And of course, like we said, we spoke about certain categories being should we say, restricted to certain machinery that they can use on track. Well, these particular jets of machinery boards that they are using here, this category is open to various manufacturers, and performance tuning is allowed here for the Masters category. So they are able to go outside the norm with this. I'm sure many of them will. Of course, Kim Down will know more about that than most, of course, being a Masters class world champion and also a stock class runner-up in 2024 as well. He had a very successful year last year. Won the stock class world championship back in 2022. But with some of the names we have got here to take into account, of course, Arkadiusz Janora, definitely one to watch, of course, being a Polish international as well. We've got Jano Vankersbilk, who is, of course, an electric challenge runner-up from last year. The Austrian Roman Litschel Kravitschvil as well, the Austrian international who's competed at the Masters World Cup in 2024 as well as the Stock World Cup back in 2023. He finished 11th in the World Cup last year and 18th in the Stock World Cup 2 years ago. As the riders get ready to head out, of course, it's all about the finals. That is where the big prizes are won. That is where the podiums are placed. And Kim Down stood tall on the podium back at Fujairah GP on the top step, looking to make it 2 out of 2 here so far. And starting on pole position, you would not bet against him. Of course, we've got quite a number of riders taken to the water here, with, in total, 12 riders will be making their way out onto the water here at the Aegean Sea. All of them get themselves into position. The number 6 of Efe Gasoy, very keen to get going already, is the Turkish talent. He's going to be joined by the number 7 of Petr Foltashek as well, who's going to be walking his way out. And we can see the C-Spot rider Murat Yorgancila, also another Turkish rider, heading out onto the water as they'll get themselves organised ahead of what will be, in total, a little reminder for you folks at home, 10 laps and 2 long laps, so very much a marathon in this case. We want to compare it to how the Masters were undertaking their races earlier on for the heat, for all heats throughout the course of the weekend. 6 laps and 2 long laps. Well, how about adding another 4 onto that? Another 4 laps, and then also including the long laps in that as well. I mean, that is almost, I appreciate we are a lap or 2 off. That's almost another race in itself. So it's who can muster their stamina the best. Of course, it takes a lot out of you. You need to really rely on your core muscles as well as your legs to really power these boards, get the rotation on the boards as well to ensure that you hit every single apex. These riders will know that more than anyone. There's Yuri Stovacek, who has been good as well this season. I'm sure we'll be seeing more from him as time goes on. Fantastic talent. Was looking to ply his trade here this time around in the Masters division. And there's the rider in position C. That is, of course, Murat Yorgancila, who was flying the Turkish flag earlier in our flag ceremony from earlier on this afternoon. And we witnessed every single nation wave its flag out on the waters here at Cheshmere in round 2 of the UIM MotoSurf World Championship, brought to you by IZELTAS. As now we watch them come down towards the next left-hander in P1. It's Kim Down. Peter Pojnik will be there as well, hoping for a good start. You wouldn't bet against him here in the Masters, and neither would you bet against David Pojnik. They dominated that last heat that we saw earlier on this afternoon. Now they start to drift their way up towards the start line, with the marshal waiting in the distance. It'll all be on Kim Down to get them underway. And it surfs up here in the final for the Masters. And now it's Kim Down who leads the way. Great start further back by the 2 Pojniks. Peter and David getting off really smartly. Further back then we have Kamil Schneider as well as Yuri Stovacek, and a move up the inside from what looks to be Yuri Blahar, I think, who got a brilliant launch as well. I tell you what, we would never count him out. He has been solid all weekend long as we watch them make their way through. There is the man in C-Spot. That's the Murat Yorgancila board as they come through the slalom section now. And this is truly extraordinary now as we watch the riders make their way along. I just want to double check to make sure that is Yuri Blahar, because it definitely looks like him. And yes, it is. He's moved all the way from 9th position right up to 4th place. A phenomenal start from Yuri Blahar, who now makes his way through the first corner There we have the man in A spot, Jano Vankersbilk, who's just trying to keep his balance. There's the number 5, belonging to Yuri Stovacek. Now they make their way through the boys before then completing the first half of the course. And now as they storm their way out, there's Yuri Blahar now. Are we seeing anyone taking the long lap straight away? That's the big question, of course. Remember, you do still have 10 laps to undertake this race, with 2 long laps thrown in between. But at the moment, it's still Kim Down, as far as I can recollect. And there he is, weaving his way through the slalom, keeping it nice and steady. You don't want to burn yourself out in the first part of the race. There's a long way to go here at Cheshme. Of course, after the Masters, we do have the stock class, and it'll be the stock cars first heading out, and then the mainstay stocks after that. That'll be another 10 laps. And just to let you guys know, Kim Down will be performing in that one too. So let's put it this way. I hope he's had his Weetabix this morning. Put it that way. It's going to be a busy day for Kim Down. But again, showing that star quality here in this Masters race by leading the charge, coming through the red boy this time. He's got a little bit of backwash there in front of him to deal with as he peels through towards the slalom in the rear end of the course. Of course, remember, they do have 2 sides they can take. At this moment in time, it looks like that Kim Down has opted to follow the wash from the rider in front, which looks like one of the Polish riders, incidentally, further up. It could equally be a Turkish rider, though, just the same. Further back, we see David Pojnik as well. There he is now. Obviously, fantastic earlier on to see the 2 Pojniks taking a race win and second place in that last heat that they were in together. Prior, of course, to this final this afternoon, that Kim Down is certainly flexing his brilliance in at the moment. Of course, now coming in towards the hairpin bend, towards the end of the first half of the course. He'll then make a decision as to whether he chooses to take the long lap or not. You might see one early on and then maybe one later on. It looks like Kim Down is going relatively early for this first long lap. So you'll be wary of the 2 Pojniks for this one. You can just see with Kim Down, it's truly extraordinary. Nothing too flashy in what he does on the board. Doesn't necessarily stay as low as perhaps most do. And certainly if you compare him to Hassan Boabas, who we've seen take part in the stock class, he gets really low to the board, and others seem to have their own techniques for their own balance. But it looks like Kim Down is not the only one to actually take the long lap, with one of the Pojniks actually doing the same. So we will wait and see as they cross the line. Of course, now as you witness more and more come through, Yuri Blahar crossing the line now as well, as we witness more and more riders come through. Also Kamil Schneider makes his way across the line as now we watch as Kim Down rounds the final corner. He has got a little bit of traffic in front of him. He might choose to take another long lap here just to avoid whatever's going on in front of him here. There is the number 2 of Petr Pojnik, now making his way through. Waving his hand again, so whether that is for a down rider or whether he's planning on going for another long lap, I'm not sure. It's a bit early for a warning for another rider, and yes, he is going for that second long lap. So there we take the long lap and at least try and maximize your pace on the long lap, and then hopefully have cleaner air side just to see if there's anyone coming. So you need to have your wits about you as riders come through on their next laps. He's going to come out side by side, incidentally, here with the A position, Jano Vankersbilk, and managed to make short work of him, that's for sure, but comes out in the wash of another rider in front of him. I'm not mistaken, that is a Pojnik, I think, in front. Maybe it's can either be Peter or David at this point, as now they make their way down towards the final corner. And it looks like Peter Pojnik has just come around the final corner to start the next lap. Yuri Blahar, currently considered our race leader for now, as I think that was number 7 of Peter Faltashek, incidentally ahead of Kim Down as he starts his next lap. So it's Petr Faltashek who's in front of him. Faltashek in 3rd place. Kim Down in 4th at the moment, but bear in mind Radek Luchka and also Petr Pojnik likely to take a long lap again. Arkadiusz Janora has moved up into 6th ahead of Kamil Schneider. But Kim Down, all he has to do now is maintain decent pace levels to make his way through the remainder of the race, just maximize that pace. And we have some more long laps being taken And it looks like Petr Faltashek was one of them. So now we watch as the number 3 of David Pojnik continues to make his way around the course. Looks like David Pojnik is also on his long lap at the moment. Efe Kasoy continues as well. He's currently at the back of the runners right now. Not the best of races so far. It might be the case, though. He's trying to get his long laps out the way early. As we now watch them cross the line. Looks like Kasoy is currently stricken in last at the moment, as now Kim Down takes the absolute lead of the race so far. With Arkadea Shinora coming across the line in second. Obviously still yet to take another long lap. As they now cruise through the first sector, Kim Down in front. It's going to take a lot to catch him, that's for sure. We know how good he is. The reigning Masters champion, showing us exactly why, coming off the back of the Fajira GP on top. And is it the case that the Çeşme, the Turkish GP, is going to be the same? There he is now, our race leader, burning his way through this slalom at the moment. Just a fantastic performance so far. Petr Pojnik down in third as well, behind Arkadiusz Janora. Now Kim Down comes around the final corner. We'll be getting set now with surely not too long left to go. There's the number 2 of Petr Pojnik. Just about to come around the final bend now. He's got quite the gap in between himself and Kim Down to try and find in order to take the lead and the win away from Kim Down. He'll need an error to go in his favour more than anything else. Is now we see the number 3 of David Pojnik come across the line as well. Through the next sequence they go. Cameron Schneider has dropped down to 6 in the process as they cross the line, so he's dropping down further, in fact, as well as Radek Luchka moves up into 6 with Jano Vankersbilk in 7th. Yuri Blahar also moving up as well. As the wind starts to pick up here at the Çeşme beach. Kim Down now catching up with yet another back marker here as they race down towards the final corner to begin yet another lap. But at the moment it's been perfect from the Korean. A wonderful performance so far. Clinical as they come, and that's all he needs to be. Just hit exactly every apex he needs to maximize that pace in a cornering sense. Doesn't matter how much straight line speed you have, it's all about what you do in the corners as a rider, and that's where Kim Down excels. And whilst this category is open to tuning of the engines on these jet surfboards, of course it can come down to basic raw ability out on the course. And as you can see, Kim Down just trying to take an alternate line to avoid the back marker here in this instance. Should come out in front of him actually as they exit out of the gates, which will be good for him because it means he can avoid the wash, and that is brilliant from Kim Down again. Just superb course management. The white flag is now coming out, and it'll be the final lap to come now for Kim Down as he looks to move his way through the first of the boys to take it through onto the final lap of asking. Here is the number 2 of Petr Pojnik. He's now on the final lap as well, making his way through the first of the many boys that he has to take on this final run. David Pojnik still in third, quite a ways behind Petr Pojnik. But Kim Down now making his way through the first half of the layout into the second half. And then the slalom to take him home as Yuri Blahar moves up into 4th. But on part of Kim Down, an astonishing performance today. The serial winner, it has to be said. He's taking it steady through these final boys, it has to be said. Obviously very wary of the wash in front of him as well. But this has been a rout in the Masters category here for Kim Down. He makes his way through the final corners here. The reigning Masters champion leading coming into this round. It's Kim Down, your winner here in the Masters final here at Çeşme, Turkey. Brilliant performance from the Korean. And that is why he is a champion. A winner here once again in the Masters category. And he'll be followed home by Petr Pojnik, as well as David Pojnik as well further back. And fist bumps between our two top contenders in the class as the checkered flag gets waved. Kim Down, winner of the final in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship in the Masters category, was brought to you by IZELTAS. Here is your final results, folks. Kim Down is your winner, ahead of Petr Požnik in second place. David Požnik in third, Petr Faltashek in fourth as well. As we look to move down to fifth, as we await for the results to fan out. Looks like we won't be getting them just yet, folks, but the one thing we do know for certain, Kim Down is your winner. And in great style as well. We'll take a look at some of the highlights from that round too. Of course, it wasn't enough just to weave your way through the boys, but avoiding some of the wash coming off the boards in front. The next mission, of course, was to undertake the long laps. Now, there were a few moments where Kim Down found himself between back markers or behind back markers, and he then opted to take the long laps in those certain positions where he felt he was going to lose time and pace. But in the end, it was masterfully done. Kim Down, a winner here in the Masters category. Once again, he will stand tall on the first step of the podium once more, and very well deserved as well, you must say. He'll be back as well later on for the stock category. He will be back for stock after the stock cars have actually headed out onto the course. But a fantastic performance from Kim Down as we now head into the next portion of our finals. The Masters now make their way back into Parc Fermé as we now watch as Efe Gassoy, after a tough day at the office, it wasn't an easy run for him, unfortunately. But we'll take you through the runners for the Stock R final. We have Adam Kohler heading out first and foremost with David Kirchger as well. Fares Ramadan, of course, the former junior champion, lining up in third. Mike Michaelidis from Cyprus lines up in fourth. Lorenzo Tanda in fifth. He's been making waves from Italy. Ender Jorgenschila in sixth, representing Turkey. Mai Solium in seventh place, with Ali Nagis starting from eighth. So 10 laps and 2 long laps to be taken by our stock cars here ahead of this next encounter. It's going to be quite a close call between some of these because they have been fighting tooth and nail inside the stock heats so far. If we want to talk about top performers, of course, look no further than the likes of David Kirchger, who, of course, has been earmarked a few times by various riders here around here as a future star. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him as time goes on. Mike Michaelidis as well, who I caught up with. I mentioned it at the top of the show. Another fantastic rider to watch. And especially considering his young age, of course not very old, hailing all the way from Cyprus, becoming Cyprus's very first competitive MotoSurf racer. And that's quite the accolade to hang on your shoulders. He is a rising Cyprus star, is Mike Michaelidis. Marked his MotoSurf debut at the age of 17. One of the first riders, as I said, to represent Cyprus in MotoSurf. He's not the only 17-year-old in the field, though, because Lorenzo Tanda is the same. 17 years of age, and representing his home nation of Italy, and had the pride of taking the Italian flag out onto the course earlier on at midday. As we now wait for the riders to head out. And, of course, David Kirchger, definitely one to watch based on what we saw back at Fujairah, where he went on to take some fabulous points, maxing out 54 points. Was actually level, though, with Fares Ramadan, who is a former junior champion, a jet surf and jet ski world champion, coupled with a World Series Cup championship and a 3 times jet ski world champion in 2023. Well, in 2023, he actually took the World Series Cup championship, but Fares Ramadan, a wonderful performance, as now we see the celebrations in full swing, pictures being taken, some phenomenal camaraderie here in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship as they all get under the IZELTAS gazebo for a picture. It's magnificent to watch. Riders from all disciplines getting together and supporting one another. Truly remarkable. But next up, of course, is the stock cars to take to the water as the spectators continue to watch on, enjoying the sunshine. Of course, we mentioned that the heat has greatly picked up over the last couple of days, and certainly through today we've witnessed quite the change. Of course, it was 28 degrees this morning and has since creeped up to 30 and beyond. It's been that case right through the course of the weekend so far. Highs around about 32 degrees. The wind has definitely picked up through the course of the weekend as well. This is certainly the heaviest we have seen it. We had some moments coming through on Friday through the course of qualifying, and on Saturday there were a few moments as well. But here today we've definitely seen the sharpest of it. So now the boards get mounted onto their mounts. We take a look at the clear crystal water here at Cheshmere. As we said, 85 kilometers away from the centre of Izmir. But here on the Aegean Sea, we'll now wait for the next group to head out. Some people getting the best views in the house as well, with their chairs pointed to the water, just watching all the action unfold on the water. A very busy beach here at Cheshmere. And where better than to jump in the sea on a warm day like this. Make sure you always stay hydrated as well, folks. I certainly do inside my commentary box, that's for sure. But we're coming into the midway point through the afternoon now, with still quite a few categories to talk about. We can, of course, talk to you a little bit more about the schedule we've got coming up today. Obviously, like I said, we're moving into the stock class categories now, with 10 laps of action plus 2 long laps for the stock cars. Stock class in itself will also have 10 laps and 2 long laps. Those will be our next 2 races. We then move into the women, taken to the water, the women's category. They'll be racing over 9 laps with 2 long laps. And then, of course, we have the big one, the elite class, coming into play later on today. And that'll be done over 12 laps with 2 long laps coming up later on this afternoon. So plenty to see. That's for sure here in Turkey. But coming off the back of stock car, we mentioned, of course, David Kirchke being one to watch. He certainly is, because, like we said, he performed so well back at the Fajira GP. But Fares Ramadan, when we talk about his accolades as a jet ski and jet surf world champion and a World Series Cup champion 2 years ago, and winning 3 jet ski world championships. Of course, we'd be remiss not to mention his work in the junior categories, leading through the MotoSurf, the UIM MotoSurf World Championship, with, you know, some fantastic results in the junior boy category, or in the juniors as a whole, where he managed to come out as champion in 2023. And the following year it would go the way of Sebastian Kostelecki, but Fares Ramadan definitely looking for a spot in the elite class in the not too distant future. When we spoke to Matej Kozicek, he mentioned that definitely the likes of Fares Ramadan, we'd expect to see him at the top, maybe even David Kirchke as well, especially seeing as he's beaten Fares Ramadan as far as the points are concerned, or certainly how the standings are concerned, coming out of the Fajira GP. They're actually pretty close together, are David Kirchke and Fares Ramadan, both scoring 54 points in the heats at our last GP. So pretty well manacled together here at this moment in time. So it's going to be a fascinating run through the stock class as we head on through. The runners, though, making their way out onto the course to get this first race of the stocks underway. Of course, stock cars go out first, and then we see the official stock classification head out. Now, to talk about the boards that are being used here, the board specs are the JetSurf Titanium DFIs from the 2021 edition to the 2025 edition, the 2-stroke engines that are being used with natural aspiration, which means that they don't use the turbocharged technology. It's many young riders coming through. It is possible, though, for riders, depending on their abilities, they can be allowed to race in this category, depending on performance in the junior categories. So there are certain rules around the stock class where young riders, if they excel in the junior categories to a certain level, if they're that impressive, they can then get an opportunity to run in the stock, or stock R in this case. As we now watch as our front runners make their way through towards the start-finish line. Adam Kohler will, of course, be the top rider to take the P1 spots. We're just watching Fares Ramadan make his way around the course. He is, of course, number 3. And hand up here for Adam Kohler to just indicate that they're ready to line up into position. The marshals, of course, watching on as they look to undertake the formation. Of course, it will be a line formation here with a couple of riders just watching behind that will include Maiso Liam and Ali Nagri. Endon Jorgen Chile will be on that far right-hand side as board number 6. As now they look to curtail through towards the next straight, and of course they'll need to make sure they're sorted out, ready for the start, where the marshal at the end of the course will have the green flag above his head. And they look very orderly right now. This looks good, this formation. But it looks like they're not going to proceed with this one. They're going to go again. The formation seemed okay there. They managed to be evenly spread out across the course. The marshal not happy with the way it was levied out. Obviously, they'll have a better view of it than us, really, in terms of how it's supposed to be. And you can just see there the hand signals being given out by the marshals, indicating where the errors were. And maybe a little bit of frustration on show here from our first place rider, Adam Kohler. Would much rather just crack on with the race at this point. You can understand that, certainly being on that first spot, there's a lot of pressure on a rider, you know, to certainly be in that position, that have that responsibility of ensuring that everything gets off the way it should, and making sure they all exercise their routes through towards turn 1 in the right manner. So now they all line up in a straight line again. The marshal just coming up in behind them on the white jet ski. So once more, it's Adam Kohler who leads them down through towards turn 1. And they'll await to get the signal from the marshal, and it surfs up here in the Stock R Championship run now, and down the inside it is going to be Adam Kohler who leads the way. My goodness, big crash. Now, was that Fares Ramadan who went off there? There was some contact. I'm not sure who that was. It was a purple jersey. Almost looked like one board had mounted another. We will, of course, get clarification as to who that was, but it definitely wasn't Adam Kohler. Let's take a look again. So keep your eyes peeled, folks. Oh, my goodness, went straight over the top. Goodness me. Now, I think that might have been Fares Ramadan who might have been part of that. But our current race leader is Adam Kohler, who now crosses the line and will make his way through towards turn 1. The number 3 in behind of Fares Ramadan. No, it looks like Ramadan is still going. And the number 4 of Mike Michaelidis now moving up as well. So it wasn't Ramadan who got caught up in all of that. As they now peel through the next segment, there is the number 1 short of Adam Kohler, just getting very low to the ocean, or to the sea, as he makes his way through. Just keeping as low as he can to the water, just to make sure he's got that line, as now the arm is raised here by Mike Michaelidis, and that means he's going on the next lap, and it looks like Fares Ramadan is joining him as well. So we've had 4 riders exit, including David Kirchke. That's an upset, of course, because Kirchke came out of the first round certainly smelling of roses. He was one of the top contenders. Ender is also out as well. That is, of course, Ender Jorgen Chile from Turkey. So he was one of the others to also meet that fate. Or are they? No, David Kirchke is still out on course. I do apologise. It was the 2 bottom ones, Ali Nagri and what looks to be Maiso Liam, who might have barreled out of the race there. Obviously, we'll get clarification on that. It looks like Mike Michaelidis just making his way around the course, getting slightly tied up. But Adam Kohler getting off to a perfect start here, and obviously with all the madness going on in behind, it really does serve him well to crack on like this, and he can potentially run out of here with a huge boatload of points, and not to mention a Stock R victory in the final. I mean, what a statement to come out in when we consider he finished 4th last time back at the Fajira GP. What a turnaround. Lorenzo Tanda as well is also up there. As we now watch the number 1 rider make his way through the final couple of corners on the course. And just a little reminder, in the Stock R, they do have 10 laps and 2 long laps to take. We've already witnessed Fares Ramadan take one. And also we witnessed Mike McLeodis also take one as well. He's currently sat in 5th behind Fares Ramadan at the moment, so keep your eyes on those come the end. Of course, Adam Kohler still yet to take his first. So now we see our number 2 rider, David Kirchke. He is still out on the course. I think there was definitely a moment there for David Kirchke. We did see a purple jersey go under the water, so it might have been the case that he was able to self-mount himself. As we now watch as our current leader on the course makes his way around the long lap. That is Adam Kohler. Now breaking through the yellow and black buoy and now through the rounded black gates. He'll now rejoin the course, and I think he is behind David Kirchke at the moment. Looks like an armor's race as well as we see more riders make their way around on the long lap. That is number 3. My goodness, that is a rider gone off there as well, right in front of the board of Fares Ramadan. We've had quite a few offs this time. That's UIM out of there. So we thought he was gone. He is still very much in this. So the only board that we have lost is Ali Nagri in accordance to our timing screen. So that is the update I can give you, folks, as we watch them come through the first sector once again. But Adam Kohler could be the one to watch come the end of this. He still shows as leading the way. Has undertaken that long lap. Many of them have. Of course, they have to take 2 through the course. Now the number 3 of Fares Ramadan comes down out of the start-finish line now through towards the first boys on the course. So they now whisk their way through the slalom once again, taking 2 separate lines. Of course, someone's going to have to suffer with the wash, unfortunately, which will, of course, upset the balance of the board. It's number 2 of David Kirchke now looking to the outside of the number 7 of UIM, who's still out there on the racing line at the moment, as the number 1 belonging to Adam Kohler now flies through the first buoy. Going to meet a little bit of traffic though, and that's going to slow him up a little bit. So that's going to upset his race as far as maintaining track position is concerned. He's just taking alternate lines to see whether he can feather himself an angle, and yes he can. Manages to get around that back marker. I think that might have been UIM he encountered on that next lap. Of course, he does still have 1 long lap to take, so not sure whether he's going to go again or if he's going to stay out. Looks like he's going to stay out on the course for a little bit longer. So now they come through the slalom once more. There's the number 2 of David Kirchke. You might have seen the lead actually favour him in this case. We'll have to wait and see as to whether he takes another long lap. Might be the case he has to, because we definitely did see a purple jersey go down under the water. It might be the fact that David Kirchke was part of that initial fracas and is basically just staying out just to hope that a few incidents occur midway through the race so that he can then recover the places that were lost. He got a little bit off balance there, and the clear indicator will be if he undertakes that long lap this time, and we'll find out now very shortly as to if he does so. So now watches the number 5 board of Lorenzo Tanda, the Italian. Makes his way around the course. There is the number 5 of Tanda now. There's the number 2. So yes, there is David Kirchke. So he sacrifices that lead and will take the long lap. So it will be handed back to Adam Kohler. Here in this stint, there is Lorenzo Tanda. Now making his way, I think, around the long lap as well. Just making contact with the yellow and black buoy as well on his run. And there is Adam Kohler, started on pole position for this particular event, and is opting to take a different line to those in front of him. I think Lorenzo Tanda is the one in front of him as well. I'm just trying to catch up with the Italian here at this moment. Of course, they've got to go through the final few boys before they can then cross the line and get their next lap underway. Here he is now, Adam Kohler, across the line, commencing the next lap this time. In the wash, just making contact with each buoy as it comes, keeping the line as tight as possible, maintaining the pace levels. That's what he needs to do to try and counteract any opportunity that the likes of David Kirchke will have of bringing the laps back in. Adam Kohler at the moment still registering down in 3rd. Is still David Kirchke right on top at the moment. Fares Ramadan currently lined up in 2nd. It's the number 5 of Lorenzo Tanda peels away on his current lap now as they break through the slalom once again. Get the feeling we're going to see a last lap crescendo here on this late stint. See the marshal with his hand up as well, just sort of indicating to the runners as they make their way around the course. It's the number 3 of Fares Ramadan in front at the moment of Adam Kohler. Now, is there any additional long laps to be taken? That is the main question. As they now come through the final boys on the opening part of the course. So indeed, yes, David Kirchke dropping down through the order has obviously taken that long lap as he crosses the line, registers himself 3rd place at the moment. Obviously no long lap to be taken now for Adam Kohler. He can keep going. Fares Ramadan obviously needs to take that one last long lap. I'd imagine he's going to save it right to the bitter end, just to give himself a chance, because obviously if Adam Kohler has a moment where he drops off his board, it could present an opportunity. Lorenzo Tanda right in front of him as well. I think that's Tanda in front anyway, as they come around the final corner. No, it's a number 3. That's in fact Fares Ramadan right in front of him. So they're going to battle over the race lead now, and there was a big moment where they nearly came together. And I think that was Ender Jorgenschieler who was part of that as well, as they come through the first stint. There is, of course, the number 2 of David Kirchke. Currently sits down in 5th place. At the moment, there's going to be a multitude of riders taking their final long laps on the last lap, I'm sure. As far as Ramadan, surely this is going to be another venture onto the long lap. Or is he going to take this to the bitter end? Let's wait and see. No, it looks like he's going to take this to the end. It's going to be side by side right through. Adam Kohler fighting tooth and nail to close up to Fares Ramadan as they wheel their way through the slalom. And now a straight line run through the final couple of corners. Ramadan still in front. And it looks like victory has gone the way of Fares Ramadan. Brilliant results from Fares Ramadan, who started 3rd in the field on the starting grid. Brilliant results. Masterminding his way to the front. And also a very jubilant Mike Michaelidis as well from Cyprus. But it's Fares Ramadan, the former junior champion, who has managed to take the victory here with Adam Kohler in behind him in 2nd. Honestly thought that Fares Ramadan had one last long lap to take. Where on earth did he come from? He dropped out of the sky to take victory there. What an astonishing race. These are the confirmed results. Fares Ramadan is your winner with Adam Kohler in 2nd. Mike Michaelidis coming home in 3rd as well, ahead of Lorenzo Tanda. David Kirchke, after the initial moment that he went into the sea, obviously lost control of the board. Ender Jorgenschieler in 6th place, with Meister Liam in 7th place. Ali Nagri not finishing, unfortunately not starting, 8th place at the moment on the timing tower, but did not compete. Here are the highlights from that truly phenomenal race. This is where we saw them almost come together. Number 2, little apology there from David Kirchke, it seems. Just got a little bit close to fellow competitor Meister Liam as they look to make their way through the course, but no stopping our eventual winner, Fares Ramadan. What an astonishing effort, and celebrating for good reason, a stock car winner here at Cheshire. As we watch more and more come across the line, Mike Michaelidis absolutely delighted. I believe his season's best performance so far from Mike Michaelidis. And in the final as well, to feature on the podium is certainly a huge feat on his part. The young man from Cyprus who's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, with the home nation of Cyprus cheering him on from home. But the celebrations now come into full swing. And yes, we take a look back at the previous results. Of course, 2nd place is achieved by Mike Michaelidis back at Fujairah. Also a 3rd place. He achieved 2 2nd places in the heats and also a 3rd place in the final event. But obviously with no final, wasn't able to undertake it. Managed to claim a phenomenal podium position to at least enter himself properly into the championship fold. As we now take a look at the stock class heading out now. Anthony Squire will be heading out onto the course in front, ahead of Kim Min Song and Kim Down in 3rd as well. Adam Janusek in 4th, Hassan Bouabas in 5th place, Adam Fitchek in 6th, Damien Kadlec in 7th place, with Miroslav Kops in 8th, 9th for Jan Travnicek, 8th place is Jan Matoska, that is in position A, Han Tai-hee in B position as well. We've got Vladimir Andel starting from the C spot, just in behind the runners as well. 10 laps and 2 long laps to be taken. As we now take a look inside the IZELTAS gazebo. as the crews now get to work ahead of this next stock race. And it's going to be a treat, this one, folks. We've got several big names to keep your eyes on. Of course, Anthony Squire, the 3-time North American champion, lining up also third in the World Championship back in 2023 and 2024. He is looking for the big prize this year, obviously, in the MotoSurf, UIM MotoSurf Championship in stock class. Of course, starting on P1, he's going to be joined, though, by the likes of Kim Min-song and Kim Dan. Kim Min-song, despite not appearing back at the Fajira GP, we welcome him back yet again. Of course, the reigning 2-time stock champion. And the fact that we have got the likes of Anthony Squire, Kim Min-song, Hassan Bouabas, whose pace is extraordinary despite having some issues through the heat races, where, of course, he came under fire after colliding with Kim Min-song through the course of the race, getting 2 of his results removed. Obviously, 1 through the course of getting your worst result removed, and also 1 through disqualification. It does mean that he only comes away with 2 results from the first 2 heats. And obviously Hassan Bouabas is going to have to bring his very best here for the final in order to counteract that. But it's going to be a mission for him to do so, starting from 5th on the grid. He is going to be joined by Adam Fitchek, which is no easy task to keep him behind, that's for sure. And Adam Janasek still also part of this as well. But when you've got names like Kim Down, Kim Min-song, and especially Anthony Squire, this is going to be one tasty encounter. This category as well restricted to the board specs of the JetSurf Titanium DFI, using the 2001 or 2021, I should say, to the 2025 models, as now we see the pictures being taken out in the water. Mike Michailidis celebrating with the other 2 riders. Of course, phenomenal to see them all in action. Michailidis obviously was very animated, crossing the line, absolutely jubilant to win in the UIM MotoSurf Stock R final that we have just witnessed just now. Well done him. Well done, Mike Michailidis. And I'm sure he'll be a star for the future, a star of Cyprus in the many years to come. But Fares Ramadan coming here as a winner. And now sharing once again another photo in amongst his 2 colleagues and competitors alike. Fantastic to see. Obviously just good spirits between all talents here out on the course. So now we await the runners to head out. Of course, first and foremost, the stock car runners will leave the water and head back onto the shore and back into Parc Fermé as well. Of course, the marshals will be stationed ready to go. They're just at the back end of the course at the moment, and as soon as they get the signal, they will, of course, move themselves into position. Anthony Squire, the first of the stock runners, making his way into the water, getting ready for this last stock race that we're going to be seeing this weekend to decide the winner of the final. And of course, Anthony Squire would love to take this one, obviously, to continue his great form through the course of the competition so far. Again, a fan favourite of the UIM MotoSurf World Championship here in stock class, and I hope we do get to see him perform at the elite level next year, because absolutely we should see him there after winning in both Heat 1 and Heat 2, taking a victory in Heat 4, P2 in Heat 3, coming away with 54 points, the highest scoring rider in the heats so far this weekend. Well, throughout the heats through the course of this weekend, higher than the likes of Kim Down and also higher than the likes of Kim Min-song, who are both sharing 46 points coming into this. But we also have to factor in the likes of Adam Fitchek, and what about Jan Travnicek as well, who's going to be out there looking for a big start. He's starting from 9th at the moment, Travnicek, so a lot of work for him to do to certainly gain something here. But many big competitors looking for the big points this time around, as now Anthony Squire gets the attention of the rest of the field as they line up ready for the start of the stock race. Kim Min-song in the orange upper on the shirt, as you can see in the number 2 short alongside him. They will be going side by side into turn 1, and it's always going to be exciting when you've got Kim Min-song in the mix. That's the reigning 2-time stock class champion, 2023, 2024. Kim Down winning it the year before he did, and he is starting in 3rd place. You've got a row of champions right there, with Squire being the reigning North American champion. as they look to get into position. Hand up here from Anthony Squire as they get into formation here. Kim Down just moving into that P3 position. On his outside is Adam Janasek. As they now round the next left-hander. There's a United States rider on the inside, 2 Koreans as well in second and third. Korea with a very strong unit in the championship this season. As now they get set, ready to go. And they await the marshal's call, and yes, surf's up here in the finale of the stock class here. And a little bit of a shaky moment there from Kim Min Song, and has sent him on, well, a little bit of a downward spiral. He's just had to go low on his board, and he's being tackled around the outside straight away. But it's Anthony Squire who gets a perfect start as they come through the slalom once again. He is leading the charge here, is Anthony Squire, the man from the States, North American champion, leading here in the finale here at Çeşme, Turkey. As they come through towards the final corners, it looks like Kim Min Song has been deposited by no less than 3 riders coming through as well. My goodness me, what a start from Hassan Bouabbas, from 5th on the grid up into 2nd, and now he's chasing after Anthony Squire. Could this be another impeccable Hassan Bouabbas performance? We'll wait and see. Again, more problems for Kim Min Sung. He is losing all kinds of traction out there, just can't seem to find the direction on his board. But no harm, no foul for Anthony Squire as Hassan Bouabbas digs a little deeper in the 5 short, starting just outside that top 4. We would have expected, obviously, those with the tighter inside line to fare better, but Hassan Bouabbas digging very deep to then discover that he could find that 2nd place, and now looks to give chase to the man from the States in front of him as well. Further down, Kim Down in 3rd spot. Also getting past Kim Min Song as they weave through the boys through the final part of the course yet again here on lap 2. As they come around the final corner this time, it's still Anthony Squire in front. Hassan Bouabbas starting to dig into the gap that they are currently sharing. Then coming across the line, Kim Down. Further back, we then have the number 8 rider. That is Miroslav Kops. Sorry, I do apologize. Number 6 rider, Adam Fitchek, who has moved through the course as well. Currently sat down in 4th place. And Travinchek in 5th as well. Kim Min Sung has dropped all the way down the order here to 8th place. So I'm not sure what's going on with him. Maybe he has a problem on the board. Just seemed to be totally out of balance at the start of the race. Just lost his line altogether. But still, nonetheless, a long way to go. Of course, this race is going to last for quite some time, with many laps being undertaken through the course of this one. Hand up here from Anthony Squire, just to warn that there might be a dropped rider somewhere. They're trying to get past some of the slow ones here in this case, and Hassan Bouabbas coming back across now. Of course, now it's Jan Matoska currently recorded as our first fastest rider at the moment. There's Vladimir Andal just giving way to the participants behind. That's the number 3 of Kim Down, who's trying to weave his way past. Jan Travnicek ahead of Adam Fitchek as well, some taking the long lap as they now peel through. There is Hassan Bouabbas in 2nd place. Like I said, they're going to be undertaking 10 laps of action here in the stock class, with 2 long laps to be taken, so they're going to have to prime their time when they take them, and certainly that's exactly what Anthony Squire is doing. He's getting the first one out the way now, as he now looks to cross the line out of the rounded black boys and now back onto the mainstay course. He now comes in through the red boys around the outside, also in behind Hassan Bouabbas, really trying to dig deep. He's already taken a long lap as well, and weaving his way through the slalom is Squire right now, representing the United States. So they're about to come up across the line. Number 1, Anthony Squire, is now around the final corner. Squire now moves his way through. He's currently registered at this moment further down the order, having taken. He's in 4th at the moment. Of course, we still have long laps to be taken elsewhere. And speaking of which, through goes Hassan Bouabbas, of course, currently recorded our race leader. He's going to look to try and overcut Anthony Squire in this case to see whether he can land a blow for the lead. This could be very close indeed between 2 very, very naturally gifted talents on these jet surf boards. And Hassan Bouabbas, he's still ahead of Kim Min Song. Where is he in comparison to Anthony Squire? It looks like Squire is ahead of him at the moment, as they storm down through the latter points on the course. And yes, there is Hassan Bouabbas just in behind. Of course, it can still all change. Very early days here in this particular race. A punch for confidence from Anthony Squire on the boy as he gives full commitment through the final corner. Every single apex is vital, especially when you've got someone like Hassan Bouabas on your tail. Kim Down now leads the race on track, still waiting to take his long lap though. But Bouabas looking dialed in as ever. This is the Bouabas we saw in the series of heats that we saw at the start of Saturday, where he pulled off an astonishing performance to take victory in the first and the second. But of course it all went wrong in the third, where he made contact with Kim Min-sung. As now Anthony Squire comes through the long lap for his second and final long lap. And it looks like Hassan Bouabas has followed him on it as well, so they're going to be sharing the same track space for the rest of this race. It looks like we got a board off as well. Goodness me, now was that Anthony Squire who's gone off? Yes! My goodness, Anthony Squire's off! The race leader has come off his board, and unfortunately that means he's going to lose out on that net P1 position. Hassan Bouabas with a comfortable lead now in front of him. So Anthony Squire, who led the way from the start, technically your net leader after the long laps were applied, and that is going to hurt him, that's for sure. Losing what was a prime position right at the front, and now Hassan Bouabas has been left on his own at the very front end, but we're still waiting to see where Kim Down comes out in all this, because of course they've still had to deal with high amounts of traffic through the course of time since they've undertaken these long laps. You just see there Hassan Bouabas getting very low on his board as he creeps around the next left-hander and trying to keep those legs as coiled as possible, just to grind out as much speed as he can. He's got plenty of company with him though, making his way through the slalom. Oh, we got a man off as well. Goodness me. That looked like the number 4 to me. Might have been Adam Janaszek as well. We got another boy off, another rider off as well, I should say, coming around the final part of the slalom. But at the moment, it's still Hassan Bouabas who's diving straight up the inside of the number, I think that's the number 8 of Miroslav Kops. As he now peels through the first sector, still Kim Down out in front. Has yet to be stopped. Hassan Bouabas currently registered P3, but we'll have to wait and see what happens on the long lap. There is Anthony Squire, looking to recover after the incident that he sustained earlier on, as he tracks after the number 3 of Kim Down at the moment. Now I am intrigued to see where this is going to end up now. The arm is raised here for Anthony Squire again. And it looks like that was because there was a rider down in the water once more. So now we watch Hassan Bouabas coming through the slalom. Once again, just looking so aggressive and dialed in. Just full commitment in every single apex once more. Much like we saw that brought him P1 in qualifying earlier on in the weekend. And now beginning his next lap and looking to consolidate his position. Up at the front, he is ahead of Jan Travnicek at the moment. The big question is, where is Kim Down? There's a rider down there in the water as well. And it looks like that is the C rider of Vladimir Randl. Of course, Hassan Bouabas forced to take evasive action, it seems. And still giving chase after Kim Down at the moment as he now makes his way through towards the next left-hander. There is the number 9 of Jan Travnicek. So we wait to find out, see where Kim Down is going to be placed in all of this. Another rider's gone off as well, coming through the slalom. My goodness me. It's now Bouabas looks to move his way through the final parts of the slalom here at Çeşme in Turkey. Surely won't be far away from claiming this victory. Does depend on where Kim Down is. He's got a little bit of traffic here as he weaves to the alternate side of the board in front. He watches the number 6 of Adam Fitchek makes his way around the course. As we now follow Bouabas making his way through the left-hander past the red marker. Through the next right, Kim Min-sung managing to recover to 4th place so far, so has managed to jump ahead of Jan Travnicek. Anthony Squire now reduced to 7th, which is a massive shame in what could have been another brilliant performance from the man from the United States. But at the moment it's Hassan Bouabas who has done exceptionally well here as they come across the line. Looks like there's a little bit of confusion for a few riders here, but it's Hassan Bouabbas who comes across the line as well. Brilliant display, and that looks like it's race over there. As to whether it goes Hassan Bouabbas' way, I'm not quite sure. He is celebrating out there. Of course, Anthony Squire came down in the water earlier on. So they're trying to work it out between them. Obviously, I'm not sure whether it might be Kim Down who might have come away with a victory, but we will let you know, folks, as soon as we get the confirmed results. But there looks to be some confusion between Anthony Squire and the rider before, who, of course, came across the start-finish line earlier than Hassan Bouabbas. There is Kim Down. It looks to be our winner. We didn't really see much of him through the course of the race there in particular, but was listed P1. And if it is the case that he's come out a victor, once more it'll be another terrific performance from the man who lives and breathes MotoSurf racing. In this case now, bringing the boards up to the line. We'll go through the results. Kim Down is your winner in accordance to the stock finale here after 10 laps of action. Hassan Bouabbas finishing in second place, ahead of Adam Fitchek in third. Kim Min-song, what a recovery to finish fourth, ahead of Jan Trevenchek, with Anthony Squire in sixth place, ahead of Adam Janicek, and then in eighth place, Miroslav Kops. Han Tae-hee in ninth place, with Jan Matowska in 10th. Vladimir Andel in 11th place, with Damien Kadlec finishing in 12th. So that concludes the UIM MotoSurf World Championship round in the stock class. We'll take you through the highlights as well. You can just see on the inside there as they made the first entry into the buoy. Kim Min-song got hoovered up by various members of the groups making their way through there as well. Some of them taking really obscure lines as well through some of the corners, but there are an immense level of riders, huge amount of riders making their way through this through the two lanes of traffic. But Anthony Squire, whilst he was the story through the majority stints of the race, he would come to an abrupt halt after making a huge, colossal mistake through towards the midway point of the lap, and therefore it meant that he forfeited the position to numerous riders through the course, having a few mistakes as well with some of the boys out there. It can be quite vigorous to see, especially with the high winds that we've recorded as of late. A couple of other runners also moving and falling into the water. Hassan Bouabbas did a wonderful job from the start, starting from fifth on the grid to eventually move into that second place, managing to finish just in behind Kim Down, who's been excellent today. Just has been an astonishing Hassan Bouabbas performance, really. He'll be absolutely delighted, I'm sure, with what he's managed to muster to the table. Could have been so easily a victory as well. Anthony Squire came across the line to complete his race, but of course maybe a little bit of confusion on his part as to whether he needed to do one more lap or not, but that was all she wrote. A truly marvellous performance on part of Kim Down yet again to finish on top. We didn't really see much of him. He kind of just sleuthed his way through the field, but sometimes that's what works. Next up, we will of course be bringing the women classification to you all as well. They'll be heading out next for 9 laps and 2 long laps of racing here this time. So that will be what we see next. And we'll see Aliska Matuskova returning once again to the field, of course, for this UIM MotoSurf World Championship Women's classification round. And they'll be heading out with all their talents taking to the field, taking to the water. Of course, we can take you through the starting positions for the women's event right now, and it's Anita Strukalova who'll be starting from P1. Alongside will be Aliska Matuskova, the two top hot shots in the world of World MotoSurf. We've got Sara Zubarova in third, Mariana Navarova in fourth, Emma Strukalova in fifth, Laura Markova in sixth place, Linda Luke Schneider in seventh. Also, we have Elisabetta Vaitova and Valentina Novotna, with position A going to Barbara Kolarova and Adela Ostrikova in B spot, with C spot going to Rosalia Janora as well from Poland. So those are our runners ahead of the UIM MotoSurf World Championship, brought to you by IZELTAS as well. We're looking forward to this one, folks. We've got a huge treat lined up for you with 9 laps, as I said, and 2 long laps to be taken. And if you want to look at the form cards heading into this one, in terms of the women's cause, Aliska Matuskova has been absolutely sensational, but so has Anita Strukalova. You're talking about 2 of the great women's competitors now taking to the water here. And very shortly they will be jumping in to undertake their final race as well. But in terms of points, they're both level at the moment coming out of the heats. Eliska Matuskova taking 4 wins on the spin in heat 1, 2, 3 and 4. And the same almost happening to Anita Strukalova, but taking a second in the first heat, the rest being wins. But because you only count 3 out of the 4 towards the final, of course they both came away with first places right through their stint in the heat. So it means they are level on 54 points. So nothing between them coming into this final round. And obviously Eliska Matuskova being a 3-time world champion and 3-time European champion. And then you've got Aneta Strukalova, who is a 2-time European champion and 4-time world championship runner-up. You've got 2 of the best of the absolute best here now competing out on the course. It's going to be a thrill ride. Then there's definitely some conversations between some of the riders as to how many laps they undertook. Obviously, I can imagine there's going to be some discussions in the stewards' room later on, as there always is in competitive sport, as we take a look at the stock riders after their recent race. But it has been an astonishing day here at Çeşme here in Turkey. After a big weekend of free practice and qualifying on Friday, we made our way through to begin the heat stage for heats 1, 2 and 3 on Saturday. And we began heats 4 this morning, very early on in the day, just after 9 o'clock. And now, of course, fresh after that, we head into the finals phase. And now with only 2 more classes to take us through to the end. And we will be seeing the women head out first. And then it'll be the turn of the elite to head out into the water this time around as well, as we now watch them get set ready to go. Women just getting ready to run as they hop into the water to cool off. It is very, very warm out there. Out on the coast on the Aegean Sea. And the engines will surely rev shortly as well. 28 degrees recorded at the moment out there. At the moment, I'm sure it feels a lot more like 30 as the riders continue to just cool themselves off in the water. Some dancing around, others just splashing about in the pool. And it's good to see all the riders in good spirits. And obviously we want to, once again, send best wishes out, of course, to Lee Yoon-jin, who was involved in a big crash earlier on. And we do wish her well and hope that she's keeping safe after the incident in the earlier heat today. But the crew around here at the UIM MotoSurf World Championship have done a tremendous job to manage everything. And the marshals here were on point as well to obviously aid in the situation. And unfortunately, Lee Yoon-jin not with us here for this next round, or certainly here for us in this final. But hopefully we'll get to see her back again in October for when we return to action in Manfredonia in Italy. And not forgetting as well, we then have another round to end the season in Croatia, which will be at Zadar on the 10th to the 12th of October as well. But now as we watch the marshals get prepped, we're going to see the female competitors now hit the water. Of course, there's going to be a full grid of 12 runners heading through out onto the course, with 12 of the highest point scorers in both groups of women competition in the women's category in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. We're just hearing the 2-stroke engines now power up on these MotoSurf boards. The jet skis heading out, as well as the spectators look to gather for a position to watch it all unfold. With a very strong breeze still apparent out on the course too. But plenty for the audience to see and do. Of course, we do have 9 laps, as I said, 2 long laps to be undertaken here in the women's category in the final. As they all head out now, ready for the start. And obviously it can get quite warm also with the helmets on as well. The high temperatures we are getting around 28 to 30 degrees in the air. And the water, especially with all the bodysuits that are on at the moment, can get very warm. There you can see the number 2 of Eliska Matuskova. Of course, a world champion, 3-time European champion. She's going to be met with Anita Strukalova, who is also a feisty competitor, 2-time European champion, 4-time world championship runner-up. And now as they look to get prepped and ready to go before taking the start, we can see now the Renaissance Squire there on the right-hand side of shot, just conversing with the rest of the field after their stock race over the 10 laps and 2 long laps that they have took. But a big warm welcome to all of you tuning around the globe. Of course, your commentator here, George Morgan, taking you through the action here today, here in Cheshmere in Turkey. We see some full body exercises here from Anita Strukalova, just bending those knees. Obviously, they're going to be put to the test here now over 9 laps, including the 2 long laps that will be taken on top of that as well. Of course, conditions very warm. We've alluded to the temperature at the moment, but it's not just that they've got to worry about the wind speed. You can see the levels of chop coming off the back of the boards as they come through the slalom. And of course, they'll be making their way through this for real later on, weaving through the boys, and also whether they be the straight upwards ones or the rounded ones. But it's Anita Strukalova, Aliska Matuskova, Sara Zubarova, and Mariana Navarova who make up the top 4 here. But some highly accomplished competitors here as they form up the V shape, coming through towards the start of the race. They await the marshal to allow them to get going. And surfs up here in the finale of the women's classification here in the UIM MotoSurf Championship. It's Anita Strukalova getting a very good start, but she's being met toe for toe by Aliska Matuskova, and they're going to go side by side near enough through the first boys. They're very nearly maintaining that side-by-side angle. And there's also a big battle over second with Sara Zubarova and Mariana Navarova, as well as they weave through now, in and out through the boys, coming through the slalom. It is still Anita Strukalova who leads the way, but they're going to come side-by-side now. It's going to be close quarter action between the front 2 still. They're fighting tooth and nail over this lead as Matuskova looks to make her way around the final corner. It is still the number 1 that's in front, belonging to Anita Strukalova so far, as they peel through on the second lap, with Aliska Matuskova hot on her heels. The jet surfboards now igniting here. The 2-stroke engines palpable as now the naturally aspirated engines make their way through the first sector on this next lap. Brilliant start here for Anita Strukalova, but as expected, Aliska Matuskova giving her a fight here at the start of this race as they come down through towards the next half of the course. Now peeling uphill. They do, of course, have the slalom to take as they weave through around the boy at the top of the hill. Already we're seeing some of the long laps taken, so here we go. Business is now about to pick up. Anita Strukalova still with that race lead, but the number 4, Mariana Navarova, going for that long lap now as she peels through on the outward stint of the course. Just in that first sector, you can divert off right at the top on the right-hand side, take the black boys on the right, come through the 2 circular boys that are also black, and then you can rejoin the course then. But as now they make their way across the line, it is still at the moment Anita Strukalova who leads the way. She came away second in the fight in the championship coming out of the Figera GP, but came away with matching points with Aliska Matuskova last time out. And Aliska Matuskova also, remember, taking that long lap. She's now down in 5th place. Linda Luke-Scheider just in front of her, as now they make their way through on this side of the course. The number 3 of Sara Zubarova now. There's the number 4 of Mariana Navarova, as they once again take the slalom. There's the number 9 coming through the final corner as well, Valentina Novotna, who's got a little bit of work to do as we watch as Sara Zubarova comes through towards the final few corners here in this first lap now. And we just witnessed the number 1 come across the line, of course, being Anita Strukalova. So far, she is your race leader as a whole so far, has yet to take the long lap. Question is, will she do it now? That's the big question. Obviously, she's going to be wary with what Aliska Matuskova has done. Of course, they were fighting tooth and nail at the opening stint of the race. And it was a fantastic battle, I have to say, but and it looked like that Anita had come out on top in that one. Obviously, remember, started on pole position, and it stood her in good stead. And she is taking the long lap. So here we go, Anita Strukalova for the first time. Of course, remember, they do have to take it twice in the women's category. And in amongst these 9 laps that we will be watching them carry out as well, looks like we're seeing as well Emma Strukalova making her way through the course. Well, she currently sits second place on top and waiting to, well, she has undertaken her first long lap with Anita Strukalova as well. Linda Luke-Schneider as well, also out on the course. Barbara Kilovova as well. She started in the A position, just in behind the front runners. As they peel through the slalom, yet again, we're watching Aliska Matuskova make her way through the course. There is Anita Strukalova. Matuskova now crossing the line as they now look to begin the next lap. So it looks like Matuskova's managed to jump Anita Strukalova through the long lap. So brilliant job from Aliska to move into second. We've had what looks to be 2 riders off as well. The marshal's just attending to them as we speak. So they've come off and they're now being attended to by the marshal. And he looks to just make sure that they are being attended to. And a red flag has come out, so I'm not quite sure what's led to that. A red flag has come out on the session. So it looks like there's been an issue out on the course. And it looks like they've got the rear bed mount on the jet ski there, as well as the marshal dips into the water just to aid the stricken rider. Not quite sure who it is at this point. See, her board is still in the water. There is the number 1 rider, of course, Anita Strukalova, started first on the grid. Now as the next rider is attended to. Didn't quite see what had actually happened there. A few riders now dumping themselves into the water as well. Obviously, with it being a red flag, they have to go back to Parc Fermé. So this is the second time we've had this in the women's division today. Obviously, we had Liu Jin unfortunately come to the same fate earlier on today, and she's now not competing in this final, but hopefully we'll see her back in the next round when we head to Manfredonia in Italy. And a couple of the other riders just on the side, I think, just looking to cool off as well in the same process. Some words being said as it looks like Navarova is just having a little chat her side as well. It's Mariana Navarova just in the water. I'm just having a word with a colleague just in there, whether the jet ski belonging to the marshal is going to take her back to the shore. As we take a look at a sky view of the course right now. See, still plenty more to come here this afternoon. But as we now pan across from the sky and take a look at the beaches of Çeşme here in Turkey. Jet ski now drifting off and obviously taking the stricken rider back towards the shore. We'll of course wait to get back to running order here this time. Of course, the UIM World Championship brought to you by IZELTAS here at Çeşme in Turkey. Also officially recognised by the Union International Motor Nautique, as now we see that the, okay, so it's a B-class ride, it's the B rider, Adela Ostrikalova, I think, who's just putting herself into position here, just onto the jet ski. Obviously, I think must be feeling some minor discomfort there by the looks of it. Just having a bit of a heavy impact with the water, and they do go at great speeds on the jet surf machinery. A credit to the sport of these competitors. They truly do know them inside and out. And looks like Mariana Navarova is still very much there, and I think bringing back both boards, I think, to the shore. And there is Adela Ostriklova now coming up towards the shore now, this time. So we will await to see the race resume, but now the boards are being collected. And they will be brought back into Parc Fermé. Of course, that includes the number 7 as well. So they head in towards the shore. So we'll await to hear word of when we get back underway. Here live from Çeşme Beach here in Turkey. And as you can see, beautiful, beautiful skies here across this beach setting. With an immense summer glow on the water at the moment, which is so, so clear, I must say. I mean, I'm looking at it from my commentary box zone as well. We're positioned right on the beach here in production, and we get to see this all happen right in front of us. And I must say, we're in very beautiful country here. As you can see, the spectators enjoying it as well. Many of them on their holidays. And the riders now head back to shore. There's Adela Ostriklova just moving away into Parc Fermé now after being collected by the jet skis and the marshals. It's good to see her walking away, though, from the incident. That's always a good sign. Just probably a little bit of a shock. We have seen, of course, some hefty crashes through the course of the weekend. I mean, I think back to Kim Min-song and Hassan Bouabis. I mean, that was quite the clash between those two. Of course, that left Kim Min-song at the very end of the race. He still had the core strength to bring it across the line to take victory, but was very much feeling his stomach. Obviously was, I think, a little bit winded after the collision between him and Hassan Bouabis as Bouabis left the long lap, and Kim Min-song met him on the run up through towards the top right hand corner of the course. They just happened to make contact. It's good to see them both competing in the stock class earlier on this afternoon. Of course, like I said, we've still got 2 to bring you. Obviously, if we include the women's round with the 9 laps and the 2 long laps, we do, of course, have the elites in action later on for 12 laps and the 2 long laps as well, which should be a thrilling finale to bring you on this Sunday here in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. Be sure to stay tuned to all the results as well. You can find everything on the MotoSurf World Championship website. So be sure to check that out, and of course stay up to date on social media as well by following the UIM MotoSurf World Championship on Instagram as well, where they'll be updating the results on social media, and on top of that, keeping you updated as to the latest news in terms of the series as well. And if you want to get involved in all the action, you can check out all the photos from the event and stay up to date with the results. We will, of course, bring you word as to the next steps in the women's classification race. As the wind continues to blow here at Çeşme. The cameraman also in the water, looking to find the right angle for the shots. Willing to go absolutely anywhere and everywhere to achieve that. As we take a look at Parc Fermé, once again, quite the hive of activity so far. As they await to head out once more and get ready and prepared ahead of the return to the water. Looks likely we're going to see a couple more of the female riders missing. You would imagine if we do take the restart. Some of the riders now prepping their boards ready for the return out onto the circuit. Of course, maybe needing to put new fuel in to last the full 9 laps that we will be undertaking. And on top of that, not forgetting the 2 long laps that must be taken as well. It's all quiet so far with the winds gusting away in the background. Within the elite category, obviously, just to bring you up to speed as well, folks, from what we've already seen throughout the course of racing today. Obviously, we've seen some fantastic action across the board elsewhere. We can confirm, obviously, some of the finals from the Masters, for example. We did, of course, have the Masters race earlier on. Kim Downer winner, beating Peter Pojnik and David Pojnik. So that was a first place for the Rocket Racing man, Kim Downer, ahead of Petr Faltashek, who finished in 4th spot. in the final. In terms of the junior boy category, it was Maciej Barbik who went on to take victory to make it wins right through the course of the day, and winning the all-important final as well to take the ultimate prize in this Cheshire round. And did a great job of scooping that as well, and also a huge credit to Ellen Badova, who won on return to Heat 4, her first win in Heat 4 since winning in Heat 1 on Saturday morning, and she's come away with the final win as well at the same time, so she's done a tremendous job to take victory ahead of Nela Poznikova, who finished in second. She's also been stellar this weekend, but it's gone the way of Ellen Bodnikova, who will be accepting the first place award on the podium later on today. But all eyes will be right now on the upcoming races we do have, and we've got to talk about the elite as well, because we've had chances to obviously talk to, I've alluded to it in the show, during the show I should say, that I've spoken to Mate, who has won 2 races so far through the course of the weekend. Mate Kozicek, representing FG Forest Racing, the 2022 MotoSurf World Champion. And he came across to join us, and we were talking about obviously the amount of work these riders put in, and he, of course, in the midst of a massive rivalry with Lukas Zahorsky, given the fact that he is, such a fan of what Zahorsky has done and brought to the world of MotoSurf through his years of brilliance in the sport, a legend of the series, 6 world titles against his name, and he is, of course, the founder of Rocket Racing, such a successful team outfit, and we have seen that from the exploits of Kim Down already today, having shown his prowess in both Masters and Stock class competition. And we cannot forget either about Matthijs Novotny, of course, the reigning champion in elite class, and coming back into play in our last heat, taking victory in that final heat of asking as well. Tremendous performance from Matthijs Novotny. Alex Luke-Schneider, also one to watch as well, the 2-time world champion, 3-time European champion as well, manager for the Apex pilots, and also rides obviously as a pilot with him, of course, coming through, and actually was brought up through the ranks along with Matej Kozicek through from juniors. Now they're going to be battling together out on the water later on in our final of the elite class. So much to talk about in the midst of that, with obviously Matthijs Novotny, we mentioned him being the reigning champion back from 2024. Years prior to that, we saw Lukas Zahorsky taking the title back in 22 and 23. But many of these pilots are here for a reason. It's because they are the best of the best where it comes to the UIM MotoSurf World Championship here, brought to you by IZELTAS. Important to note as well that if any rider wants to qualify for the elite class as well, that you do have to, if you come through the juniors, you do have to compete for a season in Stock R or Stock class for one whole season to qualify for elite participation. So many of these riders that are competing in the elite, in fact all the riders that compete in elite competition, they've all qualified to be there. And we were speaking to obviously Matthijs Kozicek, who then obviously alluded to the fact that many riders that compete at the highest level of the stock class will be moving up to the elite side of the paddock. So we'll see whether that is something that we see going forward, but that is, based on what we've heard, the ruling that we are expecting to see. All in good time. It's all quiet on the beach at the moment. See, the sun's still blazing out. That has not changed. We've not got a single cloud in the sky, everybody. Plenty of sunshine. It's very warm here. And obviously the sea very much in use by various beachgoers here in Cheshire, Turkey. So we have now some consultations in between the crew at MotoSurf prior to the women category going out onto the water. There's no news just yet, folks. We will, of course, update you as soon as we get word of what's going to happen next. But we do appreciate your time, of course, being with us here for this phenomenal event here in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. And like I said, we've got a busy calendar to bring you for later in the year. Of course, we do have Manfredonia coming up next for round 3 in Italy on the 3rd to the 5th of October. And don't forget the season finale, round 4 at Zadar, Croatia on the 10th to the 12th of October as well. We've already concluded for Gira on the 11th to the 13th of April. We're here currently in Cheshmere in Turkey. As we await the riders to head out. Very busy Parc Ferme at the moment. There's some of the female riders from the women's category just having a few discussions with the marshals as well. And I'd imagine they will be having further discussions prior to heading out. But I can already see Strukalova's board just in front. Of course, the 202 number, a very familiar number. With the number 2 also out there as well. But, of course, stay tuned with us, folks. We will keep you updated as time goes on. Eliska Matuskova in the 2 short. We'll be hoping for a quick return. But we will keep you updated, folks. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back to the Cheshmere beach here in Turkey. You join us back again here for round 2 of the UIM MotoSurf World Championship, brought to you by IZELTAS. We're about to get set ready for the women's category to get back underway after the red flag was brought out after a collision earlier on. Meant that we lost a couple of the riders halfway through, but we will take you back through the runners and their starting positions ahead of this penultimate race. We've got Anita Strukalova in first spot, alongside her Eliska Matuskova in second, Sara Zubarova starting in third, with Mariana Navarova in fourth. Emma Strukalova in fifth, then Laura Markova in sixth, Linda Luke-Schneider in seventh, next up Elizabeta Fajtova in eighth, Valentina Novotna in ninth, with A spot going to Barbara Kolarova, B spot going to Adela Ostrakova, and Rosalia Janora in C spot as well. We would have lost a couple of those. I think Ostrakova was definitely struggling with something towards the end. She was eventually brought back by the marshals, but we will update you as to who is on that rostrum, everyone, so do not panic. But we're going to be seeing the return once again of Anita Strukalova and Eliska Matuskova to the front end of the order. There is some movement as well down in Parc Ferme. We're seeing what looks to be Elizabeta Fajtova making her way back out onto the water, so she'll join the others and get ready for the start of the race. Of course, on the conclusion of the women, we will, of course, have the final race in our final soiree here at the end on Sunday, here on the 22nd of June. We're going to be bringing you the elite class with 12 laps and 2 long laps to take you through to the end of the show. But first and foremost, the women will be racing over 9 laps with 2 long laps here this time, having already taken the start already. Went through a hefty stint of the race before the red flags then came out. But now we'll have to undertake the starting procedure once again. You now see the fans there on the side of the beach, young and old, joining us on the beach this time to celebrate this fantastic championship, of course, here for the UIM MotoSurf World Championship, as now they get into position. As you can see, leading the line, Anita Strukalova, with her hand raised at the moment, awaiting to take the riders into their first corners, here to kick-start the racing action back up again for the women on their boards. Of course, we are going to be a couple of riders down here for this one, as we now watch them make their way around the course. Of course, Eliska Matuskova going through the entirety of the heat card, pulling off victories in every single race so far today. Anita Strukalova only second in one, and that was the first heat. The rest of them were winners, as now they make their way up towards the line, and they'll be awaiting the marshal's clearance to go racing once again here at Cheshire, Turkey. Round 2 in the World Championship, as we're about to get underway here in this women's category encounter. So they await the marshals. And it looks like they're going to have to go around again as well. Not happy with the formation. It was, to be fair, there was a couple of riders out of line, perhaps towards the rear. Obviously, they're having to adjust to the fact that there are riders missing here in this stint. So keep your eyes peeled as now we wait them to go through. Back again into formation. Of course, we do have the 33 in front of us. There is the 1 and 2. That is, of course, Anita Strukalova and Eliska Matuskova together. Obviously, the latter, a multi-time champion. Anita Strukalova, also a multi-time champion. Talking the best of the best here in this group. Many of the young riders in the junior girls category look up to many of these women, want to obviously apply their trade in the women's category in the future. Of course, remember, over 15 years of age you have to be to compete at this level here in the women's category. As they now drift their way, and now surfs up here in the women's finale here at Turkey. And straight away at the inside is Anita Strukalova, who leads the way. Further back, Eliska Matuskova around the outside, but it is still Strukalova who leads the way. The 2-time European champion will hold position right at the front as now they make their way through the course, halfway through. And now through the slalom they will go. Still at the moment, Strukalova holding position. There's a few movements then further back. We have got a little tussle, what looks to be for the 6th position. So they make their way through towards the final corners on the course this time. It is going to be Strukalova, then Matuskova as well, the number 3 of Zara Zubarova, also in the top 3 as well. It looks like we've got a rider down as well, capsizing through boy 1, just overextending forward. Not quite sure who that was. Wondering if it was Laura Markova who might have taken a turn. Might have been Valentina Novotna, I'm not quite sure, but just taking a little bit of a turn into the water. But it is still Anita Strukalova so far out in front, ahead of Eliska Matskova, who is still in second. Remember, of course, 2 long laps to be taken through the course of this race, as our race leader Anita Strukalova makes her way through. And indeed, we are going to be seeing the first of the long laps. The number 2 belonging to Eliska Matuskova, taking us around first. Now back on the power, she comes through the rounded boys on the course. And now back through on the remainder of the lap. Zara Zubarova now moves into that 2nd place on track, chasing after Anita Strukalova here on this next run as they come through the first sector. Now, shortly, they'll be making a decision whether they need to cover off Eliska Matuskova or if they're just going to follow the same line. Obviously, first and foremost, they'll have to take this red boy on the far right-hand side, and now comes the decision maker. Do they choose to commit to the yellow boy? Do they commit to the rest of the course, or do they carry on the long lap? Looks like we are going to be seeing a long lap taken somewhere near the front. So it looks like Anita Strukalova is going to keep going. Right at the front, still yet to take her long lap just yet. But I think Zara Zubarova has gone on the long lap. So we'll drop down the order, but that will be in an effort to try and potentially cover off Eliska Matuskova and maintain the second spot. They now breeze through the first sector this time. Anita Strukalova doing a great job once again. Coming in after taking first places in successive races in heats 2, 3 and 4. It looks like Barbara Kolarova is now in second. Elizabeta Fajtova in third. Zara Zubarova now behind Eliska Matuskova now, so that's after the long laps. Matuskova doing enough to stay ahead of Zara Zubarova, which is bad news for Zubarova, who we're currently seeing in picture. Be interesting to see where she comes out, though, in comparison to Anita Strukalova, who's still yet to come in for her long lap. And round of the boys now coming through towards the final corner on this course. Now around this next left-hander across the line to commence the next lap of action. She now comes through the first sector on the circuit. Now we watch as the number 3 of Zubarova giving chase now after Matuskova. Both taking their first laps. And Zubarova coming in after 2 fourth places in the first 2 heats. She then managed to obtain 2 podiums with a second and a third. Love to carry that through here, maybe with something a little bit more. The third place at the absolute least should be on the card, certainly given where she started. Still, it looks like Strukalova maintaining a position out on the course at the moment. Might leave those long laps right to the bitter end here and go well against the grain from everybody else. It's now Zubarova peels through this course and hand up as she looks to take either the long lap or she's met an obstruction in the course as now they come through towards the first corner. Now we might see Strukalova take the long lap here this time, obviously with the traffic now in front of her. There's number 2 of Eliska Matuskova. Coming through the next right-hander. We're going to give chase after Strukalova at the moment, but she's got Elizabeta Fajtova in front of her, who's also gone on for a lengthy run. And we got a rider rejoining the course now. I think that might be Emma Strukalova, we just saw coming out in the yellow. Now on the long lap, we finally do see our race leader come through. This is what we were expecting, given the traffic. Anita Strukalova now finally taking that long lap. Now, where will she come out in reference to everybody else? She rejoins the field, and she's ahead of Zara Zubarova, it looks like, who's just in behind. Eliska Matuskova with a little bit more work to do, and I think she's been jumped by Zara Zubarova, so some massive changes here in the course. So they come up towards the line. We'll see where about Eliska Matuskova is, but of course I think we still need to see more long laps from Zara Zubarova and Eliska Zubarova, but they're going to come together now very close indeed in towards the final 2 boys. But it is Anita Strukalova who leads the way. Zara Zubarova has caught her right up here, both taking 1 long lap apiece. And Zubarova now solidifying her place in second behind Strukalova. They now push through the first boys on the course. Now around the next left, Zubarova still hot on her heels. Now will we see another long lap taken elsewhere? Yes, the second long lap being taken by Anita Strukalova. So this is where we will see Eliska Matuskova coming into play now, because she's already done 2. So let's wait and see. Now this is going to end up Emma Strukalova as well, moving up into 5th as she crosses the line. As now we see our number 1, Anita Strukalova, now crossing the line through the rounded boys. Now, has she come out ahead, or is that Eliska Matuskova who's jumped her there? We'll wait and see. There's Zubarova, who will be undertaking her last lap of asking, I'm sure, very shortly. I'm sure she has 1 more long lap to do. Strukalova will be coming up towards the line as well in the not-too-distant future. They're just weaving their way through the boys, now through the slalom. And indeed, the number 2 of Eliska Matuskova, I think she has got her, you know. Yes, I think she has got Anita. So that's great news for Eliska Matuskova. Yes, she has. She's jumped. She has jumped Stokulova now over that last lap. Brilliant run from Eliska Matuskova. So they come through the red buoy now, midway through the course, and here's Zubarova on the long lap. She's now rejoined ahead of our number one sitter. So now, it looks like Anita Stokulova has now lost 2 places since the start of the race, and that's going to be very frustrating. Zubarova just popping out in front, coming through out of the long lap, but it's far from over yet as they take the slalom. Eliska Matuskova now back in the lead of the race as they now cruise around on this next lap. We're still waiting to see when the long lap will be judged to come out, but of course the last lap to be coming out. But Eliska Matuskova now leads the way as they push on. So a massive change up through the long lap phase. It's Eliska Matuskova, Zara Zubarova, and Anita Strukalova, who started from P1 at the very start of the race and has now since fallen down to 3rd. So Zubarova doing a great job to gain 2nd. And using the JetSurf Race DFI technology from 2021 to 2025, they're now going to look to master stroke their way through the remainder of the circuit. But Eliska Matuskova showing exactly why she's a 3-time world champion and a 3-time European champion at that as well. Making her way through the course. A magnificent performance so far, and keeping Zubarova in behind in the process. A masterful approach and a victory as well going to Eliska Matuskova. She is your winner here in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship women's category. Winner here at Turkey, and corresponding with the magnificent performance back in the UAE at the Fujairah GP. That is back-to-back victories now once again. She is cleaned up in the heats. She's cleaned up in the final, and she will stand tall on the top step of the podium in the women's category. Currently our reigning and 2-time running world champion from 2023 to 2024 in the MotoSurf, the UIM MotoSurf Women's World Championship, and she's a winner again here this time in the final. She is confirmed our victor in the final here in the women's category after 9 laps. Eliska Matuskova, Sara Zubarova in 2nd, with Anita Strukalova in 3rd, Emma Strukalova in 4th. Anita Strukalova in 3rd. We then have Elisabetta Fajtova in 5th, Linda Lukscheider in 6th, Laura Markova in 7th, Barbara Kolarova in 8th place, Mariana Navarova in 9th, Rosalia Janora down in 10th. We, of course, lost earlier on Valentina Novotna and Adela Ostralikova as well. But let's take a look at some of the highlights. And all this was basically decided through that long lap phase. Fantastic start, though, it had to be said, from Anita Strukalova, who looked really strong right from the get-go. It just didn't simply last, did it? That was the problem. Unfortunately, as soon as the long laps came into play, it opened doors for other competitors, including Sara Zubarova, who put in a great stint, but it wasn't quite as good as Eliska Matuskova. The current 2-time reigning champion could not be defeated despite Sara Zubarova's efforts in closing the gap. This was the key moment where the long lap came into play, and it relegated Anita Strukalova down into 3rd place before they then rounded the course. Victory would come the way of Eliska Matuskova once again, cleaning up through the heats, as I said, a winner in every race so far this weekend, and winning again here in the final. And the championship for a 3rd year running is looking good right now, and surely she'll be looking to claim that. Brilliant display. As now we look forward into the elite race now that's going to be coming up later on in the show. This is the starting grid here in this elite final. 12 laps. This is the main event, shall we say. Matej Kosicek will be starting in 1st place, with legend Lukas Zahorski starting in 2nd. Maciej Novotny in 3rd, Alex Lukscheider in 4th, Dominik Kadlec in 5th, and Yuri Wolf starting in 6th. So here we go, 12 laps of racing with 2 long laps to come into play as well. This is the one to watch. This is, of course, going to be the best of the best, tying up over the biggest prize in UIM MotoSurf World Championship. And I must say, it's going to be a cracker. I personally can't wait. We have got still some skyrocketing temperatures out there on the course at the moment, with the sunshine still beaming out. The spectators are going to be in for a treat. And, of course, all this brought to you by IZELTAS as well, as they now continue to converse in Parc Ferme right now. But as we watch as the women bring their boats or bring the boards, I should say, in to Parc Ferme. Next up will be the elite category. We'll look forward to bringing this one to you as well, folks. It's going to be a clinic, that is for sure. Just want to confirm as well the results from the stock class. I can tell you that in the final it was Hassan Bouabas who took victory in that one, ahead of Adam Fitchek in second. Kim Down finished in third, and the reason why, of course, there was a bit of confusion as to where we thought Hassan Bouabas had finished is because Kim Down didn't actually take his second long lap, which means that he is penalised with 40 seconds, so therefore will only finish third place. And then Jan Tremancek finishing in fourth. Kim Min Song finishing in fifth, ahead of Anthony Squire, who of course had that tumble through the course of the race as well. And Adam Janacek finishing in seventh place, ahead of Miroslav Kops down in eighth, with Han Tai-hee in ninth. Jan Mitoska down in 10th, with Vladimir Andel in 11th spot, and Damien Kadlec last of the runners in P12. But next up, like I said, we have the elite class coming into play here. This is going to be an extraordinary event where we're going to see the best of the best take to the water here in Cheshire in Turkey. And the man who joined us in commentary yesterday, Matej Kozicek, is going to be starting on pole position ahead of this magnificent encounter that will see him take on Lukas Zahorski. He'll be on his inside, but this is going to be a marathon. He mentioned, of course, heading into the final, this is the difference maker, having to fulfill additional laps on top of the heats that you usually run, and it's going to be a mission for every rider out there, that's for sure. He said it really works the muscles, certainly the legs, the back, everything where it comes to controlling these jet surf boards. But Matej Kozicek proving that he is a masterstroke where it comes to moving these boards around this course. Of course, taking qualifying pole on Friday, following up with a victory in Heat 1, a second in Heat 2, a first in Heat 3, then finishing third in Heat 4, but he certainly won't be perturbed with that. 50 points accrued through the heats, the highest scoring UIM MotoSurf racer on this grid, with Lukas Zahorski acquiring 43 points, level with Mateusz Nowotny, who took his first victory in heat action in our last Heat 4 event. And he is, of course, our reigning champion here in the elite category for the UIM MotoSurf World Championship, with Alex Lukscheider down in fourth spot, who has also taken a sequence of fourths and fifths, but the last heat brought him a second after going very long on the long lap and mustering 32 points come the end of play. Dominic Kadlec, of course, will be starting fifth. He has managed to accrue, well, he accrued 25 points through the course of this weekend, with Yuri Wolf picking up back-to-back P6s right through from Heat 1 through to Heat 3, but came home with a fifth place ahead of Dominic Kadlec in our last race in Heat 4, and managing to muster 22 points. That's 3 points of Dominic Kadlec for fifth at the moment in that championship fight. But truly extraordinary. There's going to be more to come, that's for sure. The question is, can anyone hold a candle to Matej Kozicek? Can Lukas Zahorski break down the young man? It's going to be very much, should we say, a master versus the apprentice approach in this final race. In this elite class, 12 laps with 2 long laps to be taken. Of course, many of these riders coming through the junior runs, including the likes of Alex Lukscheider as well as Matej Kozicek, who is a 2022 MotoSurf World Champion, representing the FG Forest Racing Group. He's done very well in electric racing as well as Matej Kozicek. But against Lukas Zahorski, it's going to be a whole different kind of test, as the founder of Rocket Racing and the 6 times world champion will be meeting him side by side. And we saw a massive battle between the two in Heat 3 yesterday, where it came down to the final boy on the course. And somehow, just by grabbing onto that inside line, Matej Kozicek was able to protect the lead ahead of Lukas Zahorski. As we now wait for the surfers to now make their way to the water. Obviously a little bit of time yet. with the sun beaming out. Still conditions relatively the same, approximately 28 to 29 degrees in heat. Obviously can rise to 30 in due time, with the wind still blowing as vigorously as it has done throughout the course of the weekend. Obviously we have had it fairly tepid through the course of Friday and Saturday, but things have somewhat kicked up this afternoon, so the elite runners have to be prepared for a different kind of test, I think, for this one today, with a 6 jet surf grid making their way to the start-finish line to take the formation. We're now hearing the motors begin to flash up now. Very soon we will be heading out, I'm sure, onto the course. The jet skis with the marshals currently making their way across the course at the moment, as we await for the elite runners to head out onto the course. You see the marshals currently standing waiting for the right time to get into position. So just conversing at the moment. They've had a busy day today, obviously with a few incidents, but we would be lost without them, that's for sure. Just to confirm as well, our final women's classification at close of the event we just witnessed. Of course, it was Eliska Matuskova who went on to take victory in that last event, beating Zara Zubarova, who would end up finishing in second place. Third place for Anita Strukalova, then Emma Strukalova in fourth. Elizabeta Vojtova finishing in fifth for Apex Pilots, and Ninda Lukshida in sixth. Laura Markova seventh for Rocket Racing. And then Barbara Kolofova in eighth place for La Cucina Nera, and Mariana Navarova for CMS Racing down in ninth, with Rosalia Genora finishing in 10th place for Tenzi MotoSurf Racing Team. And obviously the ones that did not take part, Valentina Novotna, as well as Adela Ostriklova, who of course was involved in that incident that caused the red flag to begin with, that later led to the restart of our race. But, as we now await for the runners to head out and get going, so we do have the watchers standing by, waiting for the elite runners to go out onto the course. This is, of course, going to be our final event of the weekend. So I said 12 laps and 2 long laps to take, which will be, like I said, a true test for the top runners in this sport. But we'll be right back after a short break, everybody. We'll see you soon for the elite start. Well, you join us back again for the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. Starting positions for the elite final. Matej Kozicek in first place on the grid with Lukas Zahorsky second. Matthias Novotny in third with Alex Luke Schneider in fourth. Dominik Kadlec in fifth. Yuri Wolf starting from sixth place to take us through this 12 lap with 2 long laps to take us through. These are the elite runners here in this championship, of course proudly brought to you by IZELTAS as well, here at Çeşme, Turkey for the second round of the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. And the man that's been making all the headlines so far, we do of course have to talk about the young man that is of course Matej Kozicek, who will be starting from that pole position spot and therefore will be the main threat into this final event of the day. This is where the best certainly come to the fold, with Lukas Zahorsky being a legend of the MotoSurf sport. He'll be lining up second on the grid. There he is now, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, alongside Matej Kozicek, who Kozicek believes Zahorsky to be his hero of the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. Grew up watching him on television and now gets the opportunity to race alongside him. Has already beaten him in an elite race already through the course of the heats, and of course most notably in Heat 3, where they came side by side coming through the final buoy, where it would be of course Matej Kozicek taking the overall victory. There is Kozicek now, arm raised, ready for the runners to now take the start, and they're all lined up ready to go, including the likes of Lukas Zahorsky, who lines up alongside him. Ever the experienced rider alongside Zahorsky will be the number 3 of Matthias Novotny, who won our most recent heat in Heat 4. And he's coming back as a returning champion from the elite class, winning the title last year and breaking the trend of Lukas Zahorsky winning the championship, as now they look to make their way through towards this next left bend now. And it's all going to be on this young man to deliver the goods here for this final race of the day, and in a bid to once again become a winner here in this championship, here this season. Such a lot on the line now as they creep and peep down towards the start. It looks like they might have to go again by the looks of it. It's quite a golfing gap between Matej Kozicek and the rest of the runners in behind, so no question they will have to go again. But just let's talk about the form leading through to this final race of the day. We've got Matej Kozicek starting on first place, qualified first place as well for the very first heat of the weekend, achieving first place in that, second place in the second heat, and first place in Heat 3 as well. It was third in the fourth heat, though, when he managed to accrue 50 points, 7 points more than Lukas Zahorsky coming into this final race, who qualified second place leading through to the first heat, where he came third. As now we watch as the runners come together through towards the final corner now. And they'll take a trip down through towards this long straight, where they'll hope for the marshal to give the go-ahead. Now this looks more like a tidier line this time, with a hefty advantage given to our P1 sitter, Matej Kozicek. So we now wait for the flag to drop, and surfs up here in Heat 4, the final, or should I say the final of the elite class here in the UIM MotoSurf World Championship. Great start here for Matej Kozicek around the outside. Already we're seeing some movements further back, as well as there's side by side between two riders. I think that might be Matthias Novotny and maybe Alex Luke Schneider as well. Side by sides again, contact, a rider goes down. My goodness, already we've seen one fall at the moment. Now as we see more and more come through, now Zahorsky, and it looks like Kozicek are going to come toe to toe. There is the number 4, that is Alex Luke Schneider, who's come to a fall, and now the two riders up at the front come side by side. Brilliant move indeed by Kozicek to hold on to the lead, and it looked like Zahorsky was going to pressure him right across the line coming out of the final buoy. Snippets, shades of what we saw back in Heat 3 earlier on in the weekend on Saturday. Truly remarkable stuff there between the two, but it is currently the apprentice leading the master. It's Matej Kozicek out in front, ahead of Lukas Zahorsky. Second place at the moment, with Matthias Novotny further back as well. It's currently the same 1, 2 and 3 we've expected to see over the course of this final, but at the moment Matej Kozicek still out in front, and Lukas Zahorsky definitely on trend, looking to perhaps return the serve, and this time in his favour as they weave through the bollards and the buoys before then coming through towards the final corners to commence the final lap of asking. 12 laps, remember, in this elite battle, the final race of the weekend to decide who will stand on the top step of the podium. Matej Kozicek definitely showing huge elements of brilliance here as the two-stroke engine jet surf machinery flies through the initial segment on this course. Of course, remember, this is open to performance tuning, these boards. So it's not just the riders. They need to have the technical know-how as much as the brilliance on the course. Zahorsky starting to get a little bit closer, was a little bit better coming through to that top half, that top right-hand corner of the course this time. And this time, Zahorsky knows it. He's going to try and take the long lap in order to undercut Kozicek here on this next run. We'll wait and see whether this does pay off for him as he now weaves his way through the boys. And now coming through out of the black and yellow trim boy this time, Zahorsky. Of course, the two-time champion is going to come out, I think, just ahead of number 3, Matthias Novotny, as they now make their way around. This time, Kozicek crossing the line, just taking a little look up and just seeing where his competitors are. And this time, I'd imagine he'll look to cover off Zahorsky this time, looking for that long lap. He will, of course, have the clean air. You might choose to use the clean air. Of course, there's plenty of laps here in this 12-lap battle that we do have. Of course, the number 3 rider now coming through. And that is, of course, Matthias Novotny, still continuing on the course, not opting for the long lap, I don't believe. It looks like our race leader is going for the long lap, so that's Kozicek going for that long lap. So we'll see where he comes out in comparison to Zahorsky, as now he comes around the far reaches of the long lap course, and there is Zahorsky to meet him now. They're going to go side by side coming through, but Zahorsky with the upper hand, and the hand was raised, so he immediately goes for that long lap this time. And at the moment, it looks like it's going to go Zahorsky's way, but he has gone straight away onto that long lap as they continue that race. And you can just see there, he's holding what looks to be the neck piece that the riders tend to wear, obviously just as a little added piece of safety equipment that they tend to don. Alex Luke Schneider now in front, but remember, of course, suffered that incident at the top of the slalom, which left him needing to recover. As we now watch the riders come through the first sector once again. And this is Matej Kozicek. Will he respond straight away to Zahorsky? A little bit of misbalance there. That was very close from Kozicek. Can't afford for too many of those, because Zahorsky will pounce on those moments if he's not careful. And of course, Zahorsky already completing the 2 long laps, which will stand him in good stead for later into this race. It'll give him that extra bout of confidence. And it opens up potential mistakes here for Kozicek unless he can mastermind his way through the long lap. This is going to be certainly very special indeed. There is Kozicek. He's being joined by what looks to be the number 3 of Matthias Novotny as well. Novotny towards the rear of the field and weaving his way through the boys right now. So they weave their way through, and it looks like they're going to be side by side through the slalom as well this time. And bear in mind, Kozicek is second in our timing tower. Matthias Novotny currently labelled 6th. We'll find out where he truthfully is. I would imagine he's probably in 2nd place right now as they cross the line. And we'll get an update on our timing screen as to where they are on the circuit, because of course Novotny was right up there, and indeed Kozicek, he is behind Kozicek right now, is Novotny. So that is essentially, I would suggest, maybe your P1/P2/P3 coming together straight away. But obviously as they take the long lap, we'll see where they are in conjunction with Lukas Zahorsky. It looks like they may have come out in behind Zahorsky, actually, because Zahorsky's come across the line in 3rd. So Zahorsky with the upper hand now on this race, it seems. Of course, Zahorsky's already taken the 3 long laps, so I would imagine another miscue, another misbalance there from Matej Kozicek. He's got Matthias Novotny for company, as well as they round the final corners to begin yet another lap. And yes, it is going to be Zahorsky out in front. This is just prime Zahorsky at the moment, coming through the first sector and now through towards the top of the course. The number 3 of Matthias Novotny also sat in what we believe to be net P3. Alex Luke Schneider doing something similar to what he did in the earlier race that saw him manage to achieve a 2nd place in the heat. Perhaps just leaving everything to the very last minute to try and muscle in a late score. As now we see the number 2 go at it. Of course, Lukas Zahorsky ducking and diving through the order. Alex Luke Schneider still registered currently at the top of the shop, with Dominic Kadlec in 2nd. Leaving their long laps to the very last minute, hoping that there will be some issues for the other riders making their way around the course. And if anyone could be in trouble here, it could be Kozicek, because Matthias Novotny is bringing his best to the absolute last, and he's hot on the heels of our current P2, net P2 sitter. As they come through the first sector now and fly in towards the latter point on this opening sector. You can already see one of the boys actually laid down in the water. Now, whether that's actually broken away and is just floating across the top, I'm not quite sure, but it's well and truly toppled as Zahorsky comes through the top of the course and now in towards the slalom, where you'll see Zahorsky at his very best, just whipping the tail out on his jet surfboard now as he climbs through, of course, the founder of Rocket Racing. We mentioned their success over time. Zahorsky is paramount to that success, as well as witnessing the likes of Kim Down also excelling at the very top, as now we watch as Kozicek makes his way across the line through the first corner once more. The longest race you'll see this weekend, folks, here in this elite class, with 12 laps in total, including the 2 long laps they must take in order to complete the race in conjunction with the rules. As we now watch as Kozicek tries to avoid the wash on the outside, trying to stay to the clean water if he can. Just needs to find something to close back to Zahorsky, but it's going to be a huge mission to do that. Of course, no, as soon as Zahorsky gets in front, he's a very tricky man to beat. But you simply never know. We saw a side-by-side tussle right on the final lap of Asking before. Then we see Zahorsky coming around the final corner, and they're catching up here with Yuri Wolf as well, who's coming around the final corner. There is Kozicek coming through turn 1. And a little bit of misbalance there from Matthias Novotny. As Zahorsky now comes through the first sector, weaving through the boys as they go. Matthias Novotny now still in third place, doing a great job of trying to rein in Kozicek. That second place is still very much up for grabs. I think Alex Luke Schneider still going very long on this opening stint. Just trying to really rumble in those fast laps to try and almost overcut Lucas Zahorsky here on this stint. Of course, remember, Luke Schneider was the one who unfortunately made a huge, colossal mistake and crashed out right at the start of the race coming through the slalom, which left him recovering. Of course, he'll have to take the long lap at some point, and that will leave him on a plate for Zahorsky in second. So now we watch them come through out of the first sector in towards the middle part of the circuit before they then take the slalom. There is Novotny. Should I say Zahorsky, sorry. Zahorsky out in that second place position. Obviously net P1, we believe. With Matej Kozicek in third place on track at the moment. As they weave through the S's, coming through the S-bends now. Just witnessed Alex Luke Schneider take the start. So I'll keep an eye on him to see whether he does take a long lap here as Zahorsky comes around the final corner. Now, there is a little bit of a gap to Alex Luke Schneider to those behind, so it might be enough to undertake the long lap, though it's going to be very close as the white flag has come out. So if Luke Schneider's going to go for the long lap here, it's going to have to be quick. It's going to have to be now or never, basically, at this point. As we watch them fly now around this circuit, this will be the time where we see him undertake it if he does so. And yes, he is. There he is, Alex Luke Schneider, making his way around on the long lap, it seems. And Zahorsky will now take the lead of the running, with second place going to Matej Kozicek. And equally, Matthias Novotny now moving into third, but it's Lucas Zahorsky showing all of his prowess of a 6 times world champion, and making his way through the slalom for the final time. He may not have started in first place, but he soon as sure got it. Came around the final corner to victory here in Turkey. It is going to be Lucas Zahorsky, your winner. Second place for Matej Kozicek. He'll finish behind his hero this time, but there'll be other occasions for Kozicek to certainly battle against his fellow competitor, his fellow Czech counterpart. And Matthias Novotny, the reigning elite class world champion, coming across the line in third. Even the marshals giving them a round of applause. That was a fantastic race, but it was Zahorsky who got the better of Matej Kozicek this time. A fantastic race between the two. And Zahorsky saying, so close, you were so close. And I'd imagine that's alluding to the incident coming into the final stage of that first race. And a little fist bump shared between the riders there. It looks like it will be Lucas Zahorsky, your winner, come the end of the elite finale. Further back then, Matej Kozicek with a fantastic second place. Matthias Novotny coming home in third. Obviously, the result just needs to be updated in front, folks. Alex Luke Schneider finishing further back with Dominik Kadlec as well in behind. Yuri Wolf further back as well. But Lukas Zahorski, a phenomenal effort. We'll take a look at the highlights as well and sum up that phenomenal outing. An incredible performance from Lukas Zahorski. The earlier stints obviously went the way of Matej Kozicek, who led the way. This was the moment where they came side by side, very nearly coming to blows. Of course, there we did see Alex Luke Schneider coming to blows after curtailing with Matthias Novotny. But it was the front two, of course, we wanted to see as well. This was the moment. There's Alex Luke Schneider going into the water after taking a tumble. He was on the back of the board of Matthias Novotny. There's the neck brace that was being carried around by Alex Luke Schneider. I'd imagine it must have fallen off as he was making his way around the course. Quickly disposed of that and got back straight on with the race. And obviously took a lengthy stint, not going for the long lap until very much late on. But no matter what he tried to do, he could not counteract the efforts of one Lukas Zahorski, who after coming up close and personal with Matej Kozicek, despite being denied the first time around, he won it during the battle through the course of the long lap. And it was a great effort by all riders concerned. This is him making his way through the slalom, just so precise, so clinical, and so fast, where he needed himself to be. And coming through the final, boys, then eventually coming through the final corner, it would be a road to excellence for Lukas Zahorski again. Round 2 victor with an ollie to pop as well as he crossed the line. Shaking the finger, he knows he's a winner. The 6 times world champion back again on top. A masterstroke performance from our victors, and what a day of racing we have truly had, capped off by the astonishing performance of one Lukas Zahorski, who takes victory ahead of Matej Kozicek. A stunning performance. We'll take a look back at some of the highlights as well of some of the moments as we got underway. This is towards the end as well. Obviously some conversations being had by some of the riders as well through the course of the week. Some fist bumps and some action. We've got to give credit to Matej Kozicek coming into elite class. Didn't show anything like this back at our first GP back at Fujairah, but eventually he came across and gave his absolute best here this weekend, and there's definitely more to come from this young man, Matej Kozicek. Obviously Lukas Zahorski eventually pipping him to the punch though in that last final, with Matthias Novotny then coming home in third, with Alex Luke Schneider, who I'm sure will also be back in the not too distant future. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. This was from earlier on where we saw some huge tumbles, of course, during the course of the Masters, just going over the top of the other rider. 2 riders actually going out. We saw a few of these through the course of the day. A lot of fortune there, that's for sure, as they made their way through the first sector. Of course, it does happen like this when you get involved in the wash. A lot of incidents can occur. There is Anthony Squire. We saw him take a massive tumble in what was a race-changing event that meant that Squire lost not only the lead, but he tumbled right down the order into P6. A really difficult moment for him. And then, of course, the women's category came up a little bit later, popping a few ollies, some great displays from, of course, Matuskova, who managed to go on to take yet another astonishing victory, Aliska Matuskova. And later on then we came up to the elite final, which was led off by, of course, Matej Kozicek, who then took them down through towards the final corner to then commence the race. It was a fantastic weekend, full of action, non-stop, right through the course of this event. But it's been a pleasure bringing you all the action, folks, from all of us here at the UIM Motorsport World Championship. We'll see you next time on October 3rd and 5th at Manfredonia, Italy. But from all of us here from Turkey, it's goodbye.